Yo! How's it going, everyone? The sun is shining. The weather is beautiful. And what can I say? The news just keeps getting better and better. Well, I don't know what the state of Perfect Dark is in. It could be in the greatest state possible, or it could be in the worst. One thing I know for certain is that it's damn hot. It is really hot here in the UK. But how is everyone? How does Tim know all this? Quite easy, really. They do have contacts, and he did have contacts in Microsoft. He did have contacts in Microsoft. Some of it was obvious. You could tell from a mile away. Sorry, my desk is full at the moment, and I'm just trying to find some space because my kids dumped everything on my desk. But yeah, some of it was obvious. Some of it was always going to happen. Some of it, like the Call of Duty, well, I've been questioning Call of Duty for quite some time. And whether it was going to be feasible. Do I accept donations? There is a tip thing. Yeah. Too much noise outside. It should be in the description below, is it not? Yeah, if you scroll down to the description, you'll see it. Powerboss, we've just started. Make who a modder? Make who a modder, Bonayo? Now, the only person that deserved the timeout was Unleashed. He got timed out during the interlude. He must be the first guy to ever get timed out before the stream even starts. So how do you actually get timed out before the stream starts? That is quite impressive. But anyway, getting back to the stream. How's everyone doing today? Not like there's been a lot of news going around lately, huh? The news has been quite tame. Nah, I've had the worst day today, probably in the past. Today's probably been my worst day in the past maybe 6 months to a year. I literally had no time for his bullshit. If you've gone into my Discord, you'll have seen what happened today. And yeah, it's why I've tried to stay off Twitter as well today. Do I think Phil Spencer will leave? Not yet. I think he will, but not yet. But I do think that the anger is being directed at the wrong person. And as I've said all along, you know, one way or another, the biggest, and you lot have heard me say this multiple times. The biggest, sorry, by the way, chat, can you hear the noise from outside? If you can, I'll close the door. If you can hear the noise from outside, let me know, because kids are playing and I can just close the window and put my fan on instead. Okay, good. So, I've said this quite a number of times. Xbox's biggest mistake was buying ABK. That was always going to change things. And honestly, that 70 billion purchase was, you know, unlike ZeniMax, which was like 7 billion, or the 3 billion for Bungie, those do not turn heads. 70 billion gets all eyes on you. And honestly, it almost feels like Activision Blizzard is now running Xbox, is now running Microsoft, because it's just so big. Mark, I agree. Sacci Nadella has probably taken over. I would say that's an accurate statement. But, you know, it is what it is. And we're going to go through some of that story. Because whether it's true or not, whether these are happening or not, one thing is for certain, the uncertainty around the brand right now is almost toxic. And it's only going to escalate until clear messaging comes out. Well, the problem is, Jacob, sorry. You know, like Steve just mentioned earlier, are we going through this again? Now, with the whole Starfield was going, Indiana was going, this was going, that was going, and this was going to be announced, and that was already in development. And in the end, the majority of it didn't, you know, it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. It's not real until it's real. But by the time it's real, it's too late for anyone that didn't care to react. And it's almost a kind of, how can I say? It's almost a kind of mindset, a placebo situation where you're almost nurtured into not caring. Now, in the grand scheme of things, most people won't care. They don't care about the layoffs. They don't care about studios closing down. They have no interest in that. The majority of the player base, which is people that generally aren't on Twitter, they just don't care, right? We all know this. So, you know, trying to assume that they do is a bit redundant, because they don't. All they care about is putting that game into their console and playing. If I asked any of my kids, you know, my kid's 18 years old, if I told him, hey, are you bothered by Tango Gameworks shutting down? He'll ask me, who are they? I don't even know who they are. The majority of the people don't look at who makes the game in this day and age. They just look at what the game is and move on. So, in that regard, Jakob, that's probably why. Because at the end of the day, the majority simply doesn't care. All they want to do is play games. Now, the diehard fans like you, me, and everyone, the ones that actually turn up to these podcasts, turn up to these streams, or have a vested interest in them, those people do know who these people are, do know who the key figures are, and so they have that connection with them because they made some of their favorite games. But the majority don't have that connection, and because that connection isn't there, and we are such the minority, it doesn't have the same impact. I mean, if you look at the situation with Helldivers 2, let's just look at the situation with Helldivers 2, because a lot of people are saying, why doesn't console gamers revolt the same way as PC gamers and they can get the same thing done? The average console gamer, whether you're on PlayStation or Xbox, has a subscription where they've found a deal and have stacked it 2-3 years. So when you go to cancel your subscription for the average person, and it's like, hey, my subscription cancels in 2047, I showed them. Yeah, I don't think they really care. It doesn't have that same impact. The reason why the PC one was so powerful is because there was a lawsuit impending. It's really that simple. The voices, the downvotes, they didn't do anything. And in this situation, there's nothing to happen. Now, the people that usually review a game and put comments down, those are the ones that actually care about the industry. Now, are you telling me that people are going to go and downvote Hellblade 2 as a protest to get the studio shut down? It's a catch-22. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. The situation is horrible. You can't do anything. I see a bunch of PlayStation fans right now hoping that Ninja Theory shut down. I mean, literally, I saw a number of tweets today before I locked off because I was just having such a bad day. I couldn't see that sort of negativity. But they are praying to God that Ninja Theory shut down. I mean, Unleashed in here earlier, he's got a number of tweets where he was praying that Ninja Theory shut down. Literally, he was begging for it to happen. That's the mindset of people. They don't, it's horrible. Hey, Ray, how's it going, buddy? Saw you on I think it was Doodles, was it Doodles or Boom's stream yesterday? Good show, buddy. But the problem is, pal, there's a lot of people like him, and it's just it's crazy. But hey, at least gamers have found a way to actually get their own back, right? They do, Mark. They do. They do. Now, the problem is, if Microsoft was actually competing with Sony in a head-to-head and actually a force to reckon with, it would have a much bigger impact if Microsoft just said, I'm going to YOLO and get out. But Microsoft's own backyard is leaking like a broken toilet at this point. I swear I saw Ray. But someone said, yeah, they're in chat. Well, at least they were. Keep an eye on me. Well, they do say I do have dashing looks, and I am handsomely handsome. So, if I do appeal to your, beastly animal nature, I am taken. So, unfortunately, I'm not available. But hey, I'm sure there's plenty of other fish out there. You know what will make their mind break? CoD is becoming next-gen exclusive and coming to Game Pass. They haven't... see, they can't do that. They can't do that for 10 years. I think there might be 9 years left on that contract now. But they can't do it because they've signed a 10-year deal. So they literally cannot do that. And they can't deliver CoD outside of parity. But hey, they've got their own back at Phil, right? I thought this was hilarious. Poor Phil. My dude's camp is gone. Hey, Rabbi, how's it going? I did not see your chat. Let me see. How is it? How are you doing, Rabbi? I am okay today. Okay. I had my local government taking the royal piss out of me today, so a little bit annoyed with that. But other than that, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you for asking. How are you? But yeah, Phil's camp is gone. It's gone. They nuked. My dude's gonna log in and it's gonna be like, hot damn. I spent the last year or so building that camp. It's like they nuked. Yeah, they did. That's his settlement. That's his gamer tag, P3. They nuked his settlement. I don't know. I get it. I get why they did it, but I still think it's quite funny. I think. Honestly, JP, I think his hands are tied. Personally, I think his hands are tied. I don't think he's in control of the ship anymore. I think he, retains some control, but the majority of that control, the majority of that, whole situation is now run by these guys. And I know you can't see it, but I'm just making it bigger so you can see it. It's now run by these guys. Sacci Nadella, Tim Stewart, and Amy Hood. They're the ones steering the ship now. I'm good, Remy. I'm good. I hope you're good. He's not getting a pass, but to be fair, setting up Game Pass overnight isn't something that's going to happen. And the Xbox One era was pretty much a write-off in itself. His first real journey was the Series X. That started off disastrous with Halo flopping out of the gate and having to take a year out. So that didn't help the situation at all. Devastator, I think these are the ones that are now calling the shots. Now, if Activision Blizzard didn't get in, if Activision Blizzard wasn't purchased, these three wouldn't have got involved. But $70 billion is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And that's going to turn eyeballs. And it did. And it got the worst attention possible. Powerboss, what do you mean Sony can break the clause? Do you mean if Sony break it? Yeah, that's the whole point of parity. Clip what? Microsoft don't know whether to put new CoD on Game Pass because of losing sales. So what's the point of Game Pass? That defeats the purpose of it. That's a huge problem right now. CoD is a big earner, and with the way things are going at the moment with Game Pass, it's not growing. It's not getting any new subscribers. It's stagnated to hell. Now, if Game Pass was on, say, 70 million subs, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But do you know what sells Game Pass? Chat, tell me what sells Game Pass. What actually sells Game Pass? Just tell me that. Tell me what sells Game Pass. Is it Samsung TVs? Is it your web browser? Is it Xbox app on your PC? Or is the number one way to sell Game Pass your Xbox console? Assuming the games are there secondary. Rabbi, I didn't even see your question. You just asked me how I was, and I said I was okay. When will Xbox fire the Xbox leader? Not yet. I think he'll be there. I don't see Phil Spencer leaving just yet. I can see my booty going, though. I don't know what he does. The answer is the console. But if you're not selling consoles and you're trying to sell the cloud and find every other way to play Xbox without a console, and if people aren't buying into the cloud, you've kind of double shot yourself in the foot. They really need to refocus on the console. Now, I know a lot of people are going to turn around and say, oh, the console is old, it's archaic, it's this business, it's that business. But it's working for Nintendo, it's working for Sony, it can work for Microsoft. It worked during the 360 era, right? The only reason the Xbox One era didn't work was because of DRM and Kinect. It's, they decided that they wanted to have always online, which probably was the dumbest thing they could have done at the time. And that sets a really bad precedent for the rest of their generation. It crippled them for the Xbox One. But they learned from that. But at the end of the day, if you want to sell Game Pass, you need to sell consoles. And so they need to move away from this whole Xbox is every single screen to the primary place to play Xbox games is the console. She did, but Xbox needs to move away from that image. They need to move away from that perception. Not every screen should be an Xbox. The best way to play Xbox should be the console. Even if it's not at the highest resolution, the simplest way to play it should be the console. I think Sarah is the CEO of Xbox now. Or she's the head of Xbox. And overall... No. Phil Spencer is the CEO of Xbox. Sarah Bond is the head of Xbox. But the problem is, I don't know what Microsoft wants to do. I mean, you can't really tell what they want to do. I agree with Powerboss. It's not too late. It's not too late. It is not too late. I still think they can right the wrong. I still think that they can turn the ship around. I still think that they've got what it takes to do it. They've got enough studios to do it. The problem is, the criteria for those is now getting, more and more stricter. They need their games to sell. And whether that means removing games day one from Game Pass and making it come on Game Pass 3 months later, or providing a higher tier, is something that, we're gonna go through in a minute. Because before we go into that, did anyone see this? I'm gonna get into that. I just wanted to know if anyone saw this clip today. This is quite funny. But you know what? I'll leave that towards the end. Because there's a reason why I'm going to leave that towards the end. So, you know, now that ads are starting to go out, Microsoft has finally started advertising Hellblade, which is, you know, nice to see. I know that there's ads going because I've worked on them personally myself. I've seen them, I know about them, and, you know, we've done some work. So I knew that they were coming, I just didn't know exactly when. We've delivered them quite a while ago for their global media campaign. But it has now started. Hopefully this will do something for Hellblade, because God only knows that, you know, at this point, every little bit will help. But the games need to sell. Because clearly, it's really confusing. On one side, you've got Microsoft saying the games don't sell. That's a problem. But if you're offering them on Game Pass day one, then they're not going to sell, right? Like, I have said this multiple times and people have said to me, why don't you buy your games? And I tell them, if it's on Game Pass, why should I? Is it conditions people not to want to buy games? I want to say conditions. At the end of the day, why would you want to buy the game if you can play it on Game Pass? Like, what reason would you have to go and buy the game if it's day one on Game Pass? You don't even have to leave your, you know, your console dashboard. Just the game's gonna be there even as a advert on the screen saying install me. So what literal reason do you have? And this is the other thing, right? If you get the game through Game Pass and then you get the game or purchase it digitally and you lose internet connection and you've uninstalled the game, you can't get either version of the game to play. Because one, you'd have to reinstall it, and that's only digitally off the internet. The other one is Game Pass. So the only reason I can see for anyone actually buying the game is if they made physical copies. And if you wanted to own it physically, for whatever reason, in case the apocalypse happened and you needed to run into a fallout shelter, you can take your Xbox with you and you got that physical disc because you're not going to have the internet for probably another 200 years, and you can play your Fallout 5. But if it's available on Game Pass, you've literally got no reason to buy it digitally because it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you own the license or not. You don't own it anyway. If the Xbox servers turn off, so do those games. What did Utopia say? Again, for any game I play on Game Pass, like, I buy it to fully support the devs. I'm sure I'm the minority there, though. I mean, I bought Starfield, but that's because it was available. I wanted the collector's edition. At the time when I wanted to buy Hi-Fi Rush, there was no physical. I'm not going to buy a digital version of a game if I've got the digital version on Game Pass. To me, that literally makes no sense. It literally makes zero sense for me to do that. I know others that have purchased over 700 games. I think Quackers, if he's in here, has something like 715 games on his Xbox that he owns personally. Hey, Lions Pride, how's it going, buddy? Is your watch still working? Because I've heard a lot of people say that their watch broke down. It has started, Powerboss. It has started, 100%. No, not the tweet. There's people that have seen the adverts now on, like a friend of mine today was telling me that he saw Hellblade 2 for the first time advertised on YouTube, and he's actually interested in picking it up because he didn't even know that game existed. He's a complete normie, by the way. He just randomly contacted me today and it goes, hey, did you know about this game coming? And I said, yeah. And he goes, man, it looks great, innit? I didn't even know it was releasing so soon. Didn't know it was coming out yet. And that's the problem, right? They don't even know that the games are coming because there's no awareness. There's nothing out there to indicate that these games even exist until like a week before. Hey, Fantasy Archer, how's it going? You own 901 games on Xbox? Susanna, what the problem there is that you're 99 short of that magic number. I think you should go and have a hard look at yourself because clearly you've disappointed 99 games. Just wanted to put it out there. But, this is the big talking point right now, and that is debating putting Call of Duty in Game Pass. Shouldn't they have run the numbers on that before spending $69 billion? Now they did. But they also didn't expect the current numbers of Game Pass to not grow. They also didn't expect, the overall sales to continue dipping. They expected growth. Hey, let's not talk about the controller. That triggers me. Oh, this was just the first one I found. There's loads more. But a lot of people are, there's a lot of this going around at the moment where there is questions. And I've always said that Call of Duty going into Game Pass is going to be very risky because Microsoft stands to lose a lot of money if they do not get subscriptions. Now, here's the thing, right? Those subscriptions that come, if they get like, say, 2-3 million subscribers that are new subscribers, that are not from, oh, wow, that is loud. That really was loud. If it was loud for you, I do apologize. That scared the crap out of me. Devastator, thank you for that $5 super chat. Sony has been training people to not buy games considering they up their prices every few. I mean, look, that £70 price tag is another reason why games are selling so low. It's dumb. You don't do it. That £70 price tag is stupid. It's literally designed for you to buy less games. I used to buy more games when games were priced at a lower rate. Now I buy less games. Especially in this economic climate, it ain't happening. I'm just not going to do it. So the price hiking video games is part of the problem. And, Sony going along with, I think it was Ubisoft, or was it 2K? I think 2K was the first one to increase the price. But Sony going along with that, the first opportunity they got, it's just pure greed. It's just pure greed. And it shouldn't have happened, but it did. And in the end, economies of scale hit. People spend less. This isn't a gacha game where the whales are going to carry everything. This isn't, Genshin Impact where they make $90 million a month. Those games print money like you printing toilet paper. But this isn't it. The video games don't do that. Was it Activision? I thought it was 2K. Brian, but if you wait for a sale, which, you know, is fine and all, no problem with that, the actual sales metrics aren't hit. Because they basically, when a publisher releases a game, the first 2 weeks, the first 2 days, they have like a set metric. And then they have a metric for a week, and then they have a metric for 2 weeks. That period there is when the majority of the players will buy the game, and that is what they base their earnings off. And if they don't hit that, then they fail to hit their target. Now, for those people that are waiting for a sale, that's great and all, but it's not contributing into supporting what they're doing for their goals. That's just how it works. Now, where are all these people coming from with like 1 million games and stuff? That's crazy. But honestly, this is what I think should happen, right? This is what I think should happen. There's a few ways they can go around this. Number one. Oh, it was Take-Two, yeah? Okay. I thought I remembered correctly. Number one. If they don't put Call of Duty Day 1 onto Game Pass, you're going to see a lot of people abandoning Game Pass. The whole allure of Game Pass is day and date. That is the primary allure, and if they go back on that, at that point, the Game Pass will lose its appeal entirely. I think what they should do is something that I said all along, is add a new tier to Game Pass. One with Activision. And for those people that care about Call of Duty, they can pay that extra fee and get it with the Activision tier. Whether that's going to go from $17 to $20 or $21, whatever it is. But I think that's the way it should be going. But if they decide that they're going to go against the crowd and against the flow and turn around and say, hey, this game is not going to be on Game Pass Day 1. The next question that everyone is going to ask is going to be, well, what about Indiana Jones? What about Avowed? Towerborn's going to be there because that's, you know, a lower spec AA or single A game. Maybe even indie to a certain degree. What about Diablo expansion? Is that going to be there? Day 1. Do you see what I mean? These questions now start to get asked, and there's no clear answer. So how do you sell a product when you can't sell it, when it no longer sells itself? If the new CoD is only on next-gen consoles and Game Pass, if they delay putting it in cloud, they can't put it on the cloud. Wouldn't that possibly drive last-gen owners to buy a new console? Yes, they can't put it on the cloud. They can't put any Activision game on xCloud. If I'm not mistaken, just someone correct me if I'm wrong. Is Diablo 4 available on xCloud? Last I checked, it wasn't. But someone else can confirm that to me. Is Diablo 4 available on xCloud? It shouldn't be based on the information, well, based on what we know. Ghost of Tsushima 2 is top 8 and Silk Song is top 2. Have you noticed how Ghost of Tsushima has made the top 8 with a PSN requirement? And the game is restricted in 177 countries? And you don't have a single PC player out there complaining about it? I thought I'd just throw that bit in. I just thought I'd throw that in. It could be, but it's not just IGN that's talking about this. But hey, at the end of the day, a lot of it is engagement. A lot of it is engagement. It's not. No cloud. That's what I thought, right? That's what I thought. So Call of Duty will not be on xCloud. It will only be on GeForce Now, Boosteroid, and whatever the other online services are that no one's heard of. So they can't actually... I mean, if anyone on the old-gen consoles wants to play Call of Duty, they have to buy a next-gen console. The question is the game going to come out for old-gen consoles? Does Microsoft believe that they have enough in them to sell it? To make people buy consoles? It's a good question. Personally, I think they do. But it's all a gamble. Now, they could put Call of Duty Day 1 on Game Pass. They could easily do that. The problem is, are they willing to take that risk? Because if they don't get new customers, if Game Pass subscriptions does not increase by, say, 2 to 3, 4 million, they will have stood to have lost a hell of a lot of money. And that's going to be taken out not on Bill or anyone else. The studios are the ones that are going to pay that price. The grunts always pay the price. So it's a big risk. Would you want them to take that risk? That's the question. Do you think the risk is worth taking? This isn't doom and glooming. This is speaking facts. It's just a normal conversation. I'm not which part of what I said is doom and glooming? I'm not even sure what I said was negative there. Xbox messed up big time. They should have dropped all the Call of Duties and Activision library into Game Pass Day 1 when they had taken over Activision. They couldn't do that, Green Goblin, because Bobby Kotick blocked all Microsoft staff from gaining access to any of their servers, tools, everything until the deal went through. Unlike with ZeniMax, where ZeniMax opened their doors Day 1 and the majority of the games were available on Xbox anyway, they already started that work before the ZeniMax deal was finalized and it went through because it was going to go through. With ABK, Bobby Kotick made sure that nothing was started or done until the deal happened. Now, should it take a year to get all the games on there? Probably not. We should have seen something at least more than Diablo 4. But that's a different debate, right? But there is a reason why it's been delayed and it hasn't happened Day 1. But that's the question. Is it worth the risk? Would you say it's worth taking that risk? To be fair, nothing can sink anything like Don Matrick did. My dude has literally sunk every single thing that he's gone to. That guy hasn't been able to succeed anywhere. My dude literally just became... I don't even know how that guy gets employed anymore. He must have like this black book that just has CEOs with like dirty secrets, and he goes, "I want this job," and they're like, "I'm sorry, but you're not getting this job with that resume." And they say, "Can you just turn to page 14 with line 7?" And they look at it, and they see the picture, and they're like, "You're hired, mate." Pretty much. I think Microsoft bits off more than they can chew. Why didn't they have better plan for implementing all these new studios games? There's multiple issues here, right? Number one, games are taking way longer to actually build than they used to. And this is causing a lot of strain. When a game takes 7 to 10 years to build and it doesn't sell well, that creates an even bigger problem. Now, the average gaming community out there looks at Metacritic. Well, they don't, but the ones that look at reviews, if a game gets like a 7 or a 6 or a 7.5, that's seen as wait for a sale. And that hurts the game. And outside of Hi-Fi Rush, Xbox hasn't had any 9s, I don't think, right? Has the Series X had any first-party games that are 9 out of 10 outside of Hi-Fi Rush? I don't think so. Ah, I knew anime would say that, right? I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And that's why, because he was going to say that, right? Because he was going to say that, I got this just for him. This slide is just for him. Xbox Series X. It's coming, buddy. It's coming. I got that one just for you, anime. I knew you would have said something. I knew it. I knew it. I knew you was going to be here to say it ain't coming to Xbox. There you go. There you go. There you go. Right there. Right there. Xbox Series X and S. It's coming. I had that prepared just for you, man. I came with receipts this time. Forza Horizon 5, yeah. Starfield didn't get a 9. Starfield got a 83 for Xbox, and I think an 87 for PC. Forza Motorsport, I can't remember what that did, but I don't think it got above 80. Forza Horizon 5, I think, got in the 90s for Metacritic. Let's have a quick look. Can't go wrong with looking at Metacritic, right? Baldur's Gate. Forza Horizon in 2021 got a 92. Motorsport got an 84. What did Halo Infinite get? An 87. So I think, is it Horizon and Hi-Fi Rush the only games that actually managed to hit that 90 plus score? They need more. JP, I agree with that. But the point I'm making is they need more of those high scoring games. It just, people talk about them more. It goes around, and if it's exclusive to your platform, more people become interested in it. Unfortunately, everyone has a massive boner for making Xbox look like the worst platform and company in the world. So when you've got idiots like Jim turning around and giving Starfield a 4 because of something that's totally unrelated to the actual game itself, you know, because he has problems with Bethesda's old views on trans people, how does that help anything? But people look at that score. Then you had the whole social side of things where people were trashing Starfield, and ironically, those same people that were trashing Starfield are now head over heels begging Xbox to release it on their platform. So clearly they're a bunch of hypocrites too. But it doesn't help the brand. The brand needs big, successful games that people talk about in order to sell. Halo is a flagship title. People need to talk about it. The next Halo that comes out needs to be front and center. It needs to just have all the fireworks and, you know, Shazams. Flight Sim is too niche. And most people that are playing Flight Sim are going to play it on PC. Remake is not on Xbox because Sony keeps renewing the exclusivity for it. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, in my personal opinion, will never appear on Xbox. I think Sony's got that knuckle down. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't think it will appear until the trilogy is out and it's been out for a whole year. So once the last version of the game is out, which will probably now release on the PlayStation 6, a year after that's released, or maybe 2, is probably when you're going to see like a bundle if they decide to bring it to Xbox. You know, with it remastered and whatnot to the latest tech, and then you'll be able to have all three in one go in one bundle. I can see that happening. Hey, Smiley. We had tornadoes last night and this morning, and they knocked down some power lines and cell phone towers. Dude, stay safe. You know, I appreciate you being here, but, you know, honestly, safety first. Go sort out what you need to do. Make sure everything's bolted down and whatnot. I genuinely have never suffered through a tornado, so I can't even imagine what you guys are going through. So I really hope that everyone is safe and you know, no harm or anything happens to anyone. Always safety first, man. There'll always be another stream. At least there's going to be a Tuesday stream next week. I might do one tomorrow, but there'll probably be a Tuesday stream. Then Wednesday should be when I find out if I'm homeless or they're going to give us accommodation to move into. And then you'll have an update on the community page as to whether I'm looking for a cardboard box or not. Then maybe Phil can just drop me a couple of million so I can be free. August 8th, supposedly Final Fantasy 16 and Remake are both going to PC. We'll see if it comes to Xbox also then. 16 will come to Xbox. There's not a real exclusivity clause preventing that, but 7 probably won't. Sony has a real boner of not giving anything to Xbox. They just don't do it. What's going to Game Pass? Call of Duty? It has to, base. It has to. If you're talking about Call of Duty, if you're talking about Final Fantasy 16, that will be interesting if it does go straight to Game Pass. Yeah, I've seen some of those tornadoes. They're crazy, man. In Manchester, crazy. Crazy. I didn't know Manchester had tornadoes. I didn't even hear about it in any of the news. Mark, so here's a little story of what happened today. So we got an email today from our local government, the housing department, the person that's, you know, dealing with our situation. They turned around and said, "Hey everyone, hey guys, look, we found you a 4-bedroom place. It's all sorted. Stay by your phones. You're going to get a phone call in the next hour. They're going to give you the address, sort out an arrangement time for you to go view it to make sure it's suitable, because I have a number of medical needs due to swelling in my legs and whatnot, because I suffer from what's called lymphedema, which is not great. COVID affected everyone in different ways, right? For me, it was the blood vessels. But anyway, I digress. So we're there waiting anxiously by the phone, really happy, really chuffed. The local council gives us a call and says, hi, is this blah, blah, blah? And we say, yeah, it is. And they're like, okay, so we just wanted to let you know that we've given that property to someone else. We are sorry, and we will still continue looking for you. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Yeah. Yeah, that happened. That happened. I was almost on the point of not actually streaming today because I was so outraged by what they did to us today. Let's just say we suffered all emotions in 1 hour, from nervousness, anxiety to joy, and to complete and utter devastation. But that is the way things roll, and we just gotta pick ourselves up and continue going forward, right? So on the 15th, they're going to apparently give us a call and let us know if we, if they've got something for us, or if they're going to put us up into a hotel or something along them lines. Apparently that's going to happen on the 15th, which is next week, Wednesday. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But even the place that we go to, we could be there for 3 weeks. We could be there for 6 months. They can't even tell us the duration, because all of that we'll find out after the 15th. Honestly, Snowy, I wasn't, but I figured, do you know what? It'll help me get my mind off things. And plus, I enjoy chatting with you all. The official eviction date is the 22nd. The 15th is when they offer us a place, and essentially we're just going to move in to the new place, if they offer it to us, of course, on the 15th. Here in the UK, they can. I mean, it's a process, so it takes 6 to 9 months, but they can. The only place that I could have stayed in is my parents' place, and because they're abroad in Cyprus. But my brother's renovating, and literally everything of his there, so I don't really have anywhere to take 4 kids and 2 adults. We'll manage something, I'm sure, but it is what it is. But what do you think anyway for this? Look, you told me that waifu lovers are not allowed up north. You're the one that said that, Steve. You said that my waifu loving ways was a big red flag. $50 You'd have to denounce the weebness. Never! I never denounce the weebness. I play way too many weeb games. Mate, if you saw my Steam account, it would be crazy. And that's why you're never going to see my Steam account. None of you. I have set up a separate Steam account because a lot of you keep asking me what my Steam account is. So, I've set one up where you can send anything you want. It doesn't matter how crazy it is. I've seen the shit you guys send Alex. I ain't that dumb to ruin my main account. There's no reason why they can't be, Mark. They've got an 18 rating, and at the end of the day, you have to be a certain age to buy them. What, my throwaway weeb one? It should be this. It should be this. Did I even write that correctly? It should be that. There's no way you're getting access to my main account. No. No, 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 no. Hell no. I've already had people donating shit to that account. That account can stay the way it is. I mean, at the end of the day, Mark, people enjoy that content. And if they enjoy it, Steam is going to sell it. That's really all there is to it. I got SBI dating system. No. But chat, here's a question for you. If Call of Duty does go to Game Pass, but they say, hey, in order for us to do it, we're going to have to increase the price of Game Pass or create a new tier. What would a price be that you're willing to pay? Would you pay more than the $17 that you have now for Activision games like Call of Duty? PlayStation and Xbox have a much more stringent policy when it comes to anything that's nude, sexual, or anything like that. They don't allow it. Xbox especially has an even higher kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Scrutiny when it comes to that sort of stuff. They just don't want it on their platform because it leaves a negative impression. Whereas Steam is an open platform. You can put anything on there as long as it's not breaking any rules or regulations. So, Steve, you'd be willing to pay £7 extra for Call of Duty. That's a lot of money extra, by the way. Devastator says an additional $3 to $8. I think that's the only way it's going to work, right? See, I think what they should do is get rid of Game Pass. I mean, I know this might seem really bad for some, but I say get rid of Game Pass, get rid of PC Game Pass, just leave Game Pass Ultimate and Game Pass Ultimate with ABK and Game Pass Core. Game Pass Core is just the internet, and I reckon, honestly, they should probably get rid of the online requirement anyway. They just... I think it's so archaic that we're still paying for online access. They can still offer the same service while still benefiting from it. Make those packages enticing so people can actually want to subscribe. That's the whole point of subscriptions, right? I would probably, even if the online service wasn't there for Game Pass Ultimate, I would still subscribe to it. Personally. But I think there's too many tiers right now, and it only really needs free. It needs the core if they want to maintain charging people for Xbox Live. The Game Pass Ultimate, which is the mid tier that includes most things, and then you've got Game Pass Ultimate with ABK. The problem is, whole grain, if it doesn't go to Game Pass, that's going to cause an enormous amount of problems for Microsoft. I mean, they're already called a bunch of liars and all of this and all of that because they continue to flip-flop with almost everything that they say. They say one thing, and then 5 seconds later, they're saying something to the complete opposite or contrary. Just look at the business update. It's only these 4 games. Don't expect anything else. Everything this is it. This is just the only 4 games. And as we have now seen, the reason Hi-Fi Rush went over to PlayStation was to, in my opinion, save Tango Gameworks, right? They tried to save them. Although, if you're looking at the latest news that's come out today, apparently it wasn't Microsoft that got rid of Tango. It was, in fact, ZeniMax CEO that got rid of Tango. There's different rumors coming out almost on a daily bloody basis at this point. Isn't there a restriction on Game Pass hike due to the FTC case? Yes, but if you create a new tier, that goes around the Game Pass price hike. So Game Pass can't increase their price for like a year, I think. Maybe that year is coming to an end. But if they create a new tier, then that circumvents that problem entirely. It's a loophole. They're adding a new tier that didn't exist previously that offers more benefits to the consumer, but at a higher price. I called ZeniMax CEO, so it was you. It was you. I did a maths the other day, and I swear they do more than that. I think it was when I did my maths, unless I did it completely wrong, it was somewhere like 6-7 billion. The problem is games are costing more and more to make. So even though Game Pass itself as a thing is sustainable and profitable, that money is then distributed to pay for other games, right? Because those games aren't selling on their own on the platform. They're not selling 10 million copies on Xbox for Starfield alone. If they did, they would have been singing those numbers. They didn't sell 5 million copies of Redfall. They didn't sell 10 million copies of Forza Horizon 5. If they did, they would have been singing those numbers. Instead, the numbers that they sing about is the MAUs, the number of people playing. And though that metric is cool, especially in a game that offers microtransactions, I mean, can you imagine how amazing it is for a game that has 40 million players, that has microtransactions? That is a investor's dream. Because even if 5% of those bought stuff from that microtransaction store, that is mega bucks of investment, right? That's what they like to see. That's why the player numbers are so important. But when you have a game that's one and done, no microtransactions, no nothing, and it doesn't sell, and it's not shifting Game Pass, it's not doing anything, then it's really done nothing. No, Benaya, on its own, if you're looking at Game Pass as a standalone unit, it probably makes about 4 or 5 billion profit a year. Game Pass costs around between 1 and 2 billion to work. And if you're looking at, I think the last time they done the numbers, I think it was like 85% or 90% of Game Pass users have Game Pass Ultimate, because Game Pass Core isn't included in that 34 million. So 90% of that 34 million is on Game Pass Ultimate. The other 10% is PC and Game Pass Standard without the online requirement. That's a lot of money. But that money doesn't just get invested into Game Pass, it goes to the studios. Now, when you've got 30 games out, they've got 35 studios, right? if those studios are making roughly between 1 and 2 games each, you're looking at about 50, 60 games there. If those games cost 100 million each, it's a lot of money. That's 6.5 billion right there. That's already eclipsed it, plus the 2 billion that it would cost to maintain Game Pass. It's already eclipsing the money that Game Pass makes. This is why Microsoft's, whole emphasis on trying to push Game Pass was so important. If they had 50 million subs right now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because instead of them earning 6-7 billion, they'd be earning 10 billion. And all those starry-eyed CEOs like Satya and Tim Stewart, all they would be seeing is all that money dazzled in front of them. But unfortunately, Game Pass isn't growing. And there are multiple reasons for this. Like I said, when you're releasing games like Forza Motorsport, it's not doing anything. Having Redfall and Forza Motorsport, I think, in the same year, it's not good. Hey, isn't the thing on right now? The Asus presentation. Someone should have a look at that. I know Wholegrain, and I'm saying they actually do make a profit with Game Pass. The problem is the other areas aren't making a profit. And when they're not making a profit, but Starfield made a profit. Starfield made its money, and it was super successful. It sold a shitload on Steam. A shitload on Steam. Even on Xbox, with that early access, for that extra $30, people paying for the collector's edition, Starfield easily made its money back. But I think that's the only one that really had a monumental sell like that. Even when you're looking at Powerboss, which isn't really going to Microsoft because it's not a first-party game, but even if that was, they had 10 million players. Do you think that they wouldn't have come out and said, we've had 7 million sales if there was 7 million sales? These are numbers that you showboat about. There's a reason why Sony stopped reporting their subscription numbers. Because once they saw that it started to dip for 2 quarters, it didn't look good on the metrics. And when websites started talking about it, they were like, nah, cut that shit off right now. And that's why Sony doesn't report their numbers anymore. It's the same reason Microsoft doesn't, because they're not moving. They're not growing, and you want it to grow. But in order for something to grow, you need to be constantly releasing bangers after bangers. And this is where Hi-Fi Rush comes in. Hi-Fi Rush was never supposed to be Game of the Year 2023, right? Hi-Fi Rush was a filler game. It wasn't designed to move consoles. It wasn't designed to move Game Pass. It was just supposed to be there to fill in the gap while the other games came in. And it didn't do that. Well, it technically did do that. It did exactly what it was intended to do. But, it's being blamed for something that's outside of its control. But there is another piece of news that's actually a little bit... Let's just look at it. So you look at this, right? Fire him now. I'm not even kidding. I want him gone. The gall for that man to speak these words. And of course, we're talking about, Mr. Booty, Matt Booty, where he said, we need smaller games that give us prestige and awards. And obviously now everyone's going, this is the head of Xbox saying this, as soon as they got rid of Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks. Okay. When he says smaller games, he doesn't mean a AAA, a studio that pretty much has a full development lifecycle, like Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush took around 4 years to make. And it had a full development team. creative, storyboarding, animators, front-end developers, back-end developers, the full works, right? The whole shebang. Now, what he's talking about here is a game like Grounded, which had 13 people. Grounded started off with 7 people, then went to 10, and ended up with around 13 people to make Grounded. That's what he's talking about here. But of course, the internet, once again, is going to take what he says the wrong way. And this isn't me defending Matt Booty in any way, shape, or form, because I think the guy's an idiot. I think the guy has done nothing, and he's part of the reason Xbox is in this mess in the first place. It was his responsibility to go and check out these games, and he didn't do it. So he has to have some blame for this. But in this instance, he's talking about studios that are, teams that are small, making games that win awards, like Grounded. Teams of like 10, 20, 30, not a team of like 100 or 200 people. That's not what he's talking about. And Hi-Fi Rush had a full-on team working on it. It wasn't just a back-end project. Oh, no. Benaya, I agree. It was the wrong time to say it. Like I said, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that the people that are reacting to this clearly do not know what's right from wrong. But Matt Booty is responsible in part. I mean, ZeniMax own almost 90% of the blame for Redfall. But the other 10% falls under people that should have been overseeing this. And it was Matt's job to oversee this. He should have been in there once a week or once a month to check on the progress, to speak to staff, to see what's happening. But everyone has this kind of, we're going to have this hands-off approach and not do anything while we get paid for it. This is the life. So yes, Matt should be held responsible and shouldn't be in that position. If he doesn't want to do that role, don't do it. Shuhei, Miyamoto, Holtz, Cerny, Iwata. Those guys go to every studio and personally check the games. Matt Booty doesn't even know the names of his studios. JP, I actually believe that. Matt Booty is so hands-off that it's crazy. I mean, the last time Matt Booty said anything about Perfect Dark was that the game was in a really good place. He really enjoyed what he played, and he cannot wait to show it to people. That's a complete contrast to what we're hearing now. I've always held Microsoft accountable on this channel. Always. I get called a pony for it, but I've always held them accountable. And everyone in here can attest to that. I do understand the outrage because there are... Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the advert, there's a time and a place for a cup of soup? It's a British advert. Have you seen it? If you haven't, if you're not British, you might not have seen it. But essentially, I'm assuming you know what a marathon is. It's a long distance run. You've got these people running a marathon, and when you're running a marathon, you need electrolytes in your system to keep you going, to keep your muscles from contracting, and you also want water to keep you hydrated. And so while the people are running in the advert, someone offers him a cup of soup, and he tries to drink the soup, and he completely fails and gets the soup all over him. And there's a saying, there's a time and a place for a cup of soup. This isn't it. This isn't one of them. There's a time and a place to make this statement. You don't make this statement 30 minutes after you announce that you're getting rid of a studio that the majority of the people out there will think that 5 people made. Right? So it's stupid, but at the same time, you've got that Feel the Burn controller. Like, who in Microsoft's marketing team could possibly imagine that that would have been the right time to release that controller? That was grade A. I'm not even going to say it. It's who in their right mind thinks that that's going to be it. Who? Everything in this place. I learned from the Jetsons. Time and a place for everything, and everything it is. Yeah. I think Sarah Bond will actually do all right, but I don't think she's actually. She hasn't had a chance to be herself yet. She's still under the wings and under the guise of the other two. But Powerboss, did you hear that apparently it was ZeniMax that let them go, not Microsoft? And ZeniMax let them go because they were stretched too thin when they went to make a project, and when they pitched Hi-Fi Rush 2 and said it would take another 3 to 5 years to make, the CEO of ZeniMax turned around and said that that's too long and we can't go we can't take on another project with that sort of a timescale currently because we are stretched too thin. Whether that means financially or staff, I don't know, but I'm guessing financially, and they said they couldn't take that strain, and so they decided to shut down Tango Gameworks. Apparently, it was a ZeniMax decision to do that, not a Microsoft. Yeah, Rakinishu. That's the one. So that's actually interesting. That's, because at the end of the day, ZeniMax still runs their, they are owned by Microsoft, but they kind of have their own still independence, the same way as ABK still has their same kind of independence. They're still running their own show with just someone else at the top, at the very top. The fact that there is no Hellblade 2, there is Hellblade 2. I saw adverts today. What are you on about? I've seen adverts for Hellblade 2 on YouTube already. Have you not? I've also seen them on Reddit. Appearing as adverts. As you scroll through. But Hellblade 2 releases on the 21st of May. Now, if you're referring to the fact that Xbox didn't have a game in the first quarter, then yeah, you're right. You're right. And they need to fix that cadence. They can't go a whole quarter with no releases when you've got 500 studios, right? And the one thing that Matt said that was correct, they do need smaller games that are built faster. Because games that, if you make one game a generation, you're not going to get very far. And I've seen a couple of ads today on YouTube with my other channel that doesn't have premium. My Chaos Lounge one does have premium, so it didn't see anything. But my Chaos Prime, my personal profile doesn't have premium, and that saw it. And I've also seen anything. But I can tell you that, where I work, we actually done some PR for them. We've done social PR for them, and we've done static PR for them as well. So I know it's gone live. Oh, marketing. This is what I'm saying. Their marketing is horrendously bad. I've only seen it on YouTube. I've not seen it. I mean, I was listening to Spotify today, but I didn't hear anything. I don't use Facebook. I use Instagram very, very little. I didn't see anything on Amazon, but apparently they do. But yeah, and I don't have HBO Max, so I can't tell from that either. Oh no, you're putting me in a bad place. Do you think Blade Eve has a nice ass? Damn right I do. That is one fine ass that's going to go into Nikkei, and I'm going to be pulling for that character. And then she can sit there with her machine gun and fire away. But those butt cheeks, jiggle away. While they jiggle away. People expected much more with Aaron, said Hellblade 2 Global Marketing. Well, considering they didn't advertise anything for her other games, this is a step up, right? That's a step up. This is my take on Bethesda. I think a number of studios was well into a project, and rather than scrapping it, they let him complete the game he's funding and was going to. Look, once Shinji Mikami left, I think that was pretty much Tango done. Honestly, I think that was Tango done. Once Shinji left, that was him done. They should have tried to retain Shinji if they could. But I guess after being bought out by Bethesda and then being bought out by Microsoft, I think he had enough and he didn't want to, he already had to adjust to one regime. He did not want to adjust to another regime. So he left to start his own studio. And I get that. But Microsoft could have, tried harder, in my opinion, to try and retain him. And maybe they did for all you know, right? Maybe they did and he just didn't want it. But with Shinji gone, he's the mastermind behind Hi-Fi Rush, right? He's the creative genius behind it. He's also the creative genius behind Evil Within. It's not Tango, it's him. He's the one that... He is the product. If you lose him, you lose the product. The other developers are good and everything, but he's the brains behind it. If you lose the brain, the body can function, but it will never be as good as the brain. And the Evil Within was already a niche enough product. But if they release an Evil Within 3 or 4, I don't know which one they're at right now, without him, it's like releasing a Metal Gear Solid 6 without Hideo Kojima. Who would trust Metal Gear Solid 6? If Hideo Kojima is not making it. Right? No one would trust it. I mean, I would still buy it because I'm a Metal Gear simp. But, what's after Hellblade 2? It's either Towerborn or the Diablo expansion. If I'm not mistaken. Shinji Mikami is the creator of Resident Evil and started the over-shoulder shooter style with Resident Evil 4. How do you let that guy walk away? Right? They could have utilized him in multiple different ways for different games, but if you lose the body, if you lose the brain, the body... I said can't function! I said, how can the body function? I said, how can the body function? How? You're missing the important word there in how. You get that shit in there. You rewrite that. Don't... I've worded of... What? Right? Like, don't get me wrong, I will never, ever, ever advocate for job losses. There are people where I work who couldn't tell that, they're so dumb that they really shouldn't be employed. I mean, there's someone I work with right now where I have fixed their mistake so many times without anyone noticing that if I didn't do that, they would have lost their job probably 2 years ago. I don't like seeing people lose their jobs, even if they are bad at what they're doing. That's just me personally. Unless they do get to a point where they are unsavable, I personally don't want anyone to lose their job because the times that we live in are horrible. Trying to find a new job is disastrous right now. It's just a nightmare. And just me being in the predicament that I am right now with me looking for a new place and just seeing how much, of an arsehole a lot of the landlords are. No offense, Steve. But a lot of them, not you, but a lot of them, because I know you like your you like your Marcus in a Mankini, so I'm definitely going to allow you, I'm definitely going to put you on the good list. Because anyone that wants to see Marcus Phoenix in a mankini, you're right by me. But it's really shit show out there. So no one wants to see a studio close. No one wants to see some offense taken. No one wants to see people lose their jobs. But at the end of the day, if the studio can't function without the brain, and it was the brain that came up with the creative ideas, the creative story, you can't make a Metal Gear game. I mean, they tried, right? That zombie apocalypse game that turned out to be complete and utter garbage. What if the next Hi-Fi Rush turned out to be that? I didn't say all of you are bad people. I said a lot of them are bad. I said you're okay, Steve. You know. If ZeniMax closed Tango, is it safe to assume ZeniMax also closed Arcane Austin? No, from what I hear, that was purely Satya. That one was Satya's decision. Satya gave Arcane 1 year to turn Redfall around. And though they'd released the 60 FPS patch, they released the updates that actually fixed the game, the community did not play it. In fact, people who have Game Pass refused to give it a chance. That's a sinkhole of thing. So the community cried that there's no 60 FPS patch, and the game was broken. So they went back and fixed the game and added a 60 FPS patch. The community still didn't give it a second chance. Now, I can tell you that Steve, and one other, I didn't see them in chat today, are actually playing Redfall. Every other weekend, we jump on and we play for a few hours, and we have a good time. We have a lot of fun. They're usually carrying me while I keep getting downed, but we have a good time. And it's actually a really fun game if you're playing with a group of friends. Dog shit like Helldivers if you're playing solo. But people didn't give it a chance. And so they couldn't turn it around. And so at the end of the day, when you look at all the facts that were presented, and this is going to sound horrible, but Arcane Austin got themselves out of a job. They got themselves shut down. And for those of you that don't know, I know there was talks about Dishonored 2 and they were pitching that, but as they got shut down, they were actually working on an offline mode of the game before they got shut down. It's a shame that they couldn't finish the offline mode, but they were actually working on it in the background, and that was the next update that was going to come for Redfall. But for those of you who, again, don't know, the developers lost faith in Redfall while they were making it. They weren't happy with the direction it was going. They didn't want to make it. They petitioned multiple times to cancel the project. The game originally was supposed to be a co-op game and not an always online live service, but the CEO of ZeniMax forced that change halfway through development, which made them have to pivot and change pretty much the direction the game was going in, rewrite lots of the story and everything else. So the game fundamentally changed from where it was going because the CEO of ZeniMax decided that he wanted another, or she, I don't know who's in charge, wanted a live service game. So it shouldn't. But at the end of the day, that CEO is one of the core reasons why Redfall turned out the way it is. But the developers themselves had no passion for the game, no desire to make it, and they weren't acting professionally. If I went to work tomorrow and I gave 10%, and then every other day for the next 3 months I gave 10%, I would be fired. It's no different in the games industry. You go and work in a supermarket, you give 10%, you're going to get fired. You're getting paid to do a job. And they were coasting. Now, there were collateral damage in there because not everyone was coasting. But at the end of the day, if you act in that fashion, no one is bigger than the club, right? Is it James Leder? Right. So, you know, the actual Austin team, they have some responsibility in this closure too. Because they didn't, you know, they half-assed the release and effort for Redfall. And in the end, it cost them. It was a matter of time before it would have happened. Maybe. Or maybe they could have been absorbed or became a support studio or something. Like I said, I'm not happy when studios get closed because of people having to find a new job. And we've had so many people losing their jobs over the years. The games industry is still shrinking in terms of staff numbers compared to what it was during the COVID boom. But I'm telling you this now. There are going to be more layoffs in the industry. I'm not talking about Microsoft here. I am just talking about solely in the industry. There are going to be more layoffs. But even this is being seen as a negative thing that Microsoft is offering. I had to actually look up what voluntary buyouts is. It's a US term. In the UK, we have what's called a voluntary redundancy, and that's essentially what this is. Why is this a bad thing? If you go for a voluntary redundancy, you usually get a better payout. You get a better package. Why is this a bad thing? For those people that want to move on, it means that those people that don't want to move on are safe. So why is this a bad thing that they're asking people if anyone would like a voluntary redundancy? Like, everything that's coming out is seen in a negative light. Why is this seen in a negative light? Yes, what would you think if Microsoft said they're shutting down ABK? They could never shut down ABK. I would actually be shocked, personally, but ABK is more profitable than Xbox right now. So that is not going to happen. And that is the reason why a lot of this is happening, because ABK costs so much. They've actually got a bigger influence on everything right now than they should have. How many times have we seen studios close because of one failure? And that is the biggest problem, right? That right there. We've entered an era right now in gaming where you literally are a one game, you're a one game show. If you don't succeed with that one game, you're out. And I know people say, oh, but I've seen like so many indie games that are super successful, and they count like 3 or 4 or 5 on their hand. They can't cover both fingers in number of games. And then when you talk about how many actually failed of those indie games, I don't think there's enough, earbuds in a tub to actually count the number of games that have actually flopped as indie games. But the reality is, if you want a game to succeed today, it needs to look great, play great, have an amazing story. All of this shebang, people expect a certain standard that's unrealistic to maintain. And if that isn't there, and if any one of them is lacking, the game is deemed as trash, the game is deemed bad, and at the end of the day, it gets a bad review, and once the reviews start coming out bad, everyone jumps on the bandwagon like they've played the game before and already say it's trash, it's rubbish, it's not gonna do, it's the worst game in the world. And then they turn around to their friends and say, don't play this game, I've never played it, but I can tell you it's rubbish already. And so they don't buy it, and then they tell their friends, and eventually no one buys the game and the studio dies. That's essentially how it works. Wait, what reference made no sense? What reference made no sense? Microsoft is putting their money on Call of Duty. Well, Microsoft originally put their money on Game Pass, and that's not succeeding. It's not doing what they want to do. Right now, that's the big question, right? Will Game Pass succeed? I mean, will Call of Duty be day one on Game Pass? It's a big question. It's a really big one. It is a big one. Oh, boys. It's happened. It's happened. Breaking news. Chat, did you see it? Breaking news. That's my drink. I need more drink. Chat, did you see the breaking news? Chat, breaking news. Timdog V2 has finally come out of the woodworks. It's happened. It's happened, boys. We all knew this day was coming. Now, if only they would stop talking about Xbox, I think the world would be a nicer place. If only the world, if only they stopped and talking about Xbox, because you can clearly see that them moving over to PlayStation has brought them no no fame, no anything. So they're still having to talk bad about Xbox just for that engagement, Of course he did, but he's not going to stop bad-mouthing Xbox. And that's where the bad thing is, Benaya. No, Bob. I mean, look, the way I see it, if you don't like a company, if you don't want to support that brand, that's your prerogative. That's your thing, right? You can do what you want. No one can tell you. But why do you not talk about the brand that you're interested in and you're still talking about the brand that you're not interested in? I'm not going to mod you, dude. I don't see anyone that needs to be timed out or banned or anything. There it is. There it is, boys. There it is. There it is. Because Xbox gets views. And what did I say yesterday? I think I actually said it today. Or was it? Yes, I think it was today. That all these publications would be out of a job if Xbox decided to call it a day today. They would have no one to write about, no one to complain about, no one to talk about, no one to make up stories about, no one to speculate about. They would literally have nothing to write about in the games industry. If Xbox today decided that they were going to go and just nope out of existence and just say, you know what, we're done, we're leaving the gaming side of things, these publications like Eurogamer, IGN, they would have no one to talk about. No one. Because clearly the only way that they can get views is by talking about Xbox. It's just like... I timed out Unleashed because I wasn't prepared for his bullshit today. I've already got a lot on my mind, and someone coming into my chat and cheering on people losing their jobs, that's not it. That's not it, Chief. I don't support that. You want to do shit like that? I'm not for that. So I timed out Unleashed today when he came in and started celebrating the fact that people lost their jobs. That to me was, I'm not tolerating that. Dude, I'm not gonna add any more. I'm not adding any mods. PlayStation does have plenty to talk about, but it's never reported. Even the class action lawsuit is muted from every media outlet. It is. I mean, Steve, how many people did you see talking about Sony potentially being taken to court by those 177 countries for fraud? Which one actually said that Sony was fraudulent in selling games in a country they knew they couldn't actually play? Not one. You can't unmod yourself, no. That's administrator. Exactly. Because it wouldn't make news. Look, something I posted today, right? Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? This one here. Right? Did we hear the same kind of reaction that we're having now to the studios that these closed? Japan Studios is one of my favorite studios, and it's gone. Gravity Rush was a phenomenal game. Really liked it. On the Vita, it was really cool with the whole gyro thing. The second one I didn't enjoy, but the first one was really good because it had that cool gimmick with it. But where was the fluff and the outrage and all of that? You had a couple of people talking about it. I mean, even the 900 people that got laid off, it was like a footnote for most people. That's the difference. The same energy is never there. And look. This is what I'm talking about. It's not the same because Sony had a consistent first party with consistent output. So if you have a consistent first party chat, it's okay to gut and fire everyone. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got your Fallout 5s out there and your Elder Scrolls 6 and your Halos coming out on time and your Avoweds and your Doomed, then it's okay to go and get rid of every company out there from Insomniac to Tango. It doesn't matter because you've earned the right to do that because you've got a consistent list of first party games, man. Like, how much is that? How Rakanishu is that statement right there? How much of a Rakanishu is that statement right there? Like, it's perfectly okay if you've got a consistent barrage of games. So clearly what he's saying is, I don't give a shit about the developers that lose their jobs. I don't give a shit about the companies that are closed down or the studios that are closed down. I just want my games. And that's what it boils down to for the normies. They don't care who makes the games. They don't care what happens to the studio. As long as those games are coming out, they just don't give a shit. But when it comes to Xbox, that rage, that triggered rage is amplified to untold levels. Because they have to. Because as Benaya said, it gets views. It gets views. And that's where it's at. Now, Paris released a video that I want to check out because I think it's worth listening to. But before I do, right? Before I do, I want you lot to listen, check this out. Because Unleashed decided that he was going to bet me for $10 and he didn't follow through. And now someone, Beast of Truth, decided that they were also going to do the same thing and get into a bet with someone, and it didn't really work out well for them, despite the fact that they set the rules, they set the stage, and they got their asses handed to them. So I wanted to put it out there, and we can check it out. So he's asking for them to pick a game. So he's telling them, you can pick any game you want. He's not Susano. $100. So he's betting $100 to this guy that he's going to whoop his ass. You can't hear it? What do you mean you can't hear it? Of course you can hear it. Don't be speaking rubbish to me, boys. We all know that you can hear it. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. This time. Tell me you can't hear it.
What are you talking your about, mouth to me, nigga? You beneath me in every way. We got up on the game right now, nigga. Pick a game, I'll beat your ass. Pick a game, I will beat your ass. Pick a game, nigga. Pick a multiplayer game, I will beat your ass. Pick a game, man. What you trying to play? Shut the fuck up.
You still can't hear it.
Trying to play. You tell me what to play. Okay, nigga, you got that new Tekken? Gotcha. I sure do. I will beat you. Matter of fact, let's do that. Let's put $100 on the line. $100.
So $100, yeah? My dude betted him $100 that he gonna whoop his ass in Tekken.
Let's do it, man.
Now it's low.
Send me your friendly, send me your gamer tag, man. I'll get on the game right now. Post your game, post your gamer tag. That's the part. Hold on, y'all know I do this.
This is brilliant. This is poetic.
Yes or no, nigga? You want to run your motherfucking mouth? Now you in the doghouse, nigga. $100 bet. You talking shit.
Later that day.
Round 1. Fight.
So that's Beast of Truth.
Oh, okay, okay.
Analyze his fight pattern.
Scanning. Countermeasures ready.
Let's kick his ass. Get this bum out of here, will you? Just get this bum out of here already, huh?
Teach your man how to squabble.
Acknowledge me. Is this your game? Huh? No. Wait.
This is hilarious.
I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people think they got a chance.
Get the fuck out of here, little nigga. Take that dumb shit with you.
Go ahead and drop that gamer tag right here in these comments so I can add you, and we can go ahead and have that match in Tekken 8 so I can go ahead and take that $100 you wagered trying to pop off. You want to talk gaming? Show me that you're a gamer. Yep. Yep. Run my money, bitch. Hold that L forever. That was poetic. They were just having an argument, and he decided that he was gonna challenge him, old school gamer style, you know, the way we used to do it back in the day. And now this is his response. WTF, tell me why I just found out that the country boy was an elaborate conspiracy by a couple of PS weirdos just to allow one of them I checked long ago to fight me in the only game he no-lifes. I feel a lot better now. So basically, he betted $100 and he's not going to pay. What is it with people today that have no integrity, no credibility? If you are going to bet someone for something, at least have the audacity to at least follow through with it. It's just, it's like he's pulling an Unleashed, and he's trying to now get out of paying $100 because this dude is really good at the game. Like, I ain't give a shit. You're the one that told him to pick a game. You set the rules. You know what I mean? And now he's in fact, he's actually now I think he's hidden his stuff away now. He hasn't actually surfaced since this whole thing. But this dude is a Star Trek nerd, Halo, and an Xbox fan. I'll follow. But yeah, I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, I thought that was goddamn hilarious. That was really well done. But yeah, if you're going to make a bet, at least follow through with it, right? Even if it is, if you don't want to bet a lot of money and you just want to have a sportsman bet and just put down a single dollar or a single pound, whatever, man. Just put down something measly that won't break the bank and just... You know, that's why when Unleashed turned around and told me that he wanted to bet 8 billion euros? And I said, look, I don't want you living in the streets in a cardboard box. I want you, you know, while you're strutting in your stables, I do want you to have a roof over your head. Countryman and... it was between Countryman and Beast of Truth. Countryman and Beast of Truth. Harmon Vids, I sent you to. Hopefully we'll get some time for that, dude. Hopefully we'll get some time. Oh no, Steve is having PTSD already. Steve is having PTSD already. He's like, no. This is Devin, I actually don't know. I can't tell you either way. I genuinely don't know. If I knew that it wouldn't, I would say okay, but I actually don't know. Hey, Chille for that 2 months membership. I broke down and spent on... No way! What did you do? How much did you spend? And thank you for that membership, Chille. Oh shit! Shots fired at Powerboss. What did you do? Which skin did you get? No way. No, no, no. But yeah, I wanted to watch this because I'm not sure if any one of you have seen this. It's a pretty long video, but I wanted to react to this like while we're checking it out. It's actually a really well talked about video, and I think he hits the nail on the head. And I know a lot of people are, well, some people are really upset with him for his view, but I think it's the most accurate that I've seen out there from most people. Ah, the Snow White outfit. I mean, Snow White is actually a really good character. You know what? This conversation is sounding weirder and weirder the more we talk about it. Steve did not mean me. I do not look like Harmon. I have a beard. Mate, you're talking about Tectone. No. But let's check this out. Check this out, and we can move forward because it actually plays a role in what I want to talk about next. Yeah, but my beard just looks better. Plus, it's got a bit of white there. It makes me look like a silver wolf. It's a lot more cooler. You guys had a chance for me to actually, it was on the other channel that we did that, didn't we? Where if we hit a certain milestone on my subs, my daughter came in one day and she was talking to me when I was streaming on my other channel. And she turned around and goes to the chat, she wants me to shave it all off. And so obviously I said no, because I like my beard. And so she said, what if you hit a certain number of subs? Then will you take it off? And so chat was saying, yeah, do that. Thankfully, we didn't hit that number. I mean, it's a double-edged sword there, but I did save the beard. But that was a scary time. We missed it by about 10 subs. I saved the beard. But anyway, let's check this out. But I did save it. We're getting a movie based on the greatest game of last year, Gollum. Wait, we already have a Gollum movie. Don't we already have a Gollum movie? My other crippled channel is Chaos Prime ZYT. It's currently undergoing a massive overhaul, changing the direction it's going in. But if you just put youtube.com/, that's the name. But it's once I've moved, it's going to be rebranded. And what I'm going to do over at that channel is do gameplay, game guides, like for games that are coming out from like all platforms. It's called Lord. Anyway.
Hey, it's Paris. And I apologize in advance. I am a little under the weather. Been battling a cold. So if I look all tired and sleepy and my voice is all gravelly, that's why. But, I had said over a week ago, I wanted to start doing more solo content. And I'm testing out here on riverside.fm.
Thanks,
and just with this recent Xbox news, I figured it'd give me a chance to kind of expand upon the conversation that we started on Kind of Funny yesterday on Gamescast with myself, Greg Miller, and Gary Whitta, just talking about these studio closures at Bethesda. And obviously there's been more news that came out today from Jason Schreier about a town hall with Bethesda. And then I saw The Verge who was talking about again, this is probably a rumor speculation, but saying internally they were debating about Call of Duty potentially not coming to Game Pass and what all this means ultimately for Xbox. And again, with me being able to have my own platform here where I can have an extended conversation about the things that are on my mind, I'm just going to use that as a test subject here of making that kind of content. And once we get past like all the summer game fest and June showcase stuff, I definitely want to do more solo content outside of Gamertag Radio and kind of funny. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and start rambling for a few minutes and kind of give you my thoughts on just what I think is happening here over the past couple of days. But I want to take you all the way back to 2020. I want to take you back to when Xbox originally announced that they were doing this Bethesda acquisition, and just my thought process back then. I'll take you through what my thought process was during the Activision acquisition, and here we are today. So if you go back to 2020, when they acquired Bethesda, it made total sense to me. And I know I've had some critics saying that I was, all on board and encouraging these acquisitions. The Bethesda one, I definitely was more so than the Activision one, because the thought then was Xbox was looking to get more content to get people to subscribe to Game Pass. This is the stuff that I was talking about then.
I mean, that was the whole thing, right? Everyone wanted more content for Game Pass to make it more lucrative, to give you more reason to sign up, and in turn, it would make it sell even easier. It would, it would sell itself even more. When you've got the games like Diablo and Call of Duty coming day one to Game Pass, that's a big, big carrot for people to sign up to Game Pass.
Obviously, back then, they were talking a lot more about exclusivity, things like that. So how do you get people on board your subscription service? Content, consistent content. So you acquire Bethesda. Now you have access to all their IPs. That made sense to me. So
see, that's the key thing. Phil Spencer said one game every quarter. And that is where he has failed repeatedly, multiple years. We are not getting one game every quarter. We're getting one game this year for the first, 5 months? And then the last 7 months, we're getting like 10 games. And clearly some of them are going to fail because they are too close together, right? You don't have time to play all those games. And if someone was interested in all of them, they're only going to buy a select few. They're not going to buy all of them. So that then tells you that some of those games that were originally planned for 2024 are now being pushed to 2025. I've heard Indiana Jones could be slipping to the first quarter of next year, for example, like January, the second or third week of January. But this is what I mean. Like, they need consistent games coming out. When Phil says one game a quarter, I think it should really be like 2 games per quarter with the amount of studios that they have. But if you want Game Pass to succeed, you need to constantly be pushing through content. Now, like with any subscription service, if you look at Netflix, that's always going to be a problem because they are always going to pump through fillers to make sure that those individual, those little areas of pocket space where nothing's happening are filled up as well. That's where your Vampire Survivors comes in and your Hi-Fi Rush. That's where those fillers are filled in. For the bigger games, like the Avowed, like the Call of Duties, like the Hellblades. But you need the content, and you need a constant stream of it in order to keep it successful. Otherwise, people unsubscribe.
That's why I talked a lot about that at the time. Now, move forward over to, not Bethesda, over to Activision. And, while I understood why they did it, first thought obviously is Call of Duty, and you got World of Warcraft and Diablo and all of that. And now you can add that to your portfolio of Game Pass as well. It made sense to me. We obviously were talking about it, but even then my thought process was, okay, if you're acquiring Activision, that needs to be it. We got to stop. We got to slow up. We cannot keep taking entire publishers off the board. That is not good for this industry to consolidate it too much. People were saying, oh, go get Sega, go get Square. And I was like, no, I think that's too much.
See, I'm the complete opposite of what he's thinking. At the time, I was like, yeah, Sega would be a really good buy for Microsoft. But at the same time, I also think if they did buy Sega, those games shouldn't be exclusive to Xbox. They should still be multiplayer like they are now, but they should be on day one on Game Pass. Because you're trying to sell Game Pass as a platform. That is the, for the longest time, Phil has tried to make Game Pass the platform. And the only way to do that is to fill it up with more content. Making it exclusive to that isn't really the carrot. But saving you, I don't know, $4,000 a year, that's the carrot. Right? If you've got all of these games coming from Bethesda, Zenimax, id Software, Activision, Blizzard, Sega, Atlas, I don't know, Square Enix, you're saving a metric ton of money by just subbing to a subscription service. That's the carrot. It's available everywhere else, and that's the place where you're making your big money. It's almost like you're double dipping, right? You've got your Game Pass subscriptions, which are going to rise up to the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70 millions because people just want a subscription. So people are going to sign up to the subscription service because it's going to save them a lot of money, especially in this economic climate. And there's a constant stream of games coming. That was my mindset. And at the same time, you've got those PlayStation fans and Steam fans and Switch fans who want the games. Well, they're paying $70 each. So instead of it being exclusive to one platform and making no money, now all Xbox gamers are having their cake and eating it, while the other three platforms are basically funding even more purchases and more games for Xbox fans. It's basically an amazing cycle where they are literally working to pay for our entertainment. But that's the way I saw it.
I want them to kind of slow down here and stop with the acquisitions at that point. And obviously, here we are in 2024, and that is kind of vetting out to be very true. So
I have big hype for Indiana Jones.
Is to where we are now, because they went through this whole long drawn
don't really care about that sweet baby stuff
process, the FTC, the CMA, all of that. And it got to the point where I just simply
it was Chille, yes, it was,
because it was starting to be pointless. I was to the point like either you get them or you don't. Regardless, we need to move on. But here's the truth: ever since
it is, Charles.
They acquired Activision Blizzard, it has essentially been nothing but bad news coming out of Xbox Game Studios. Just has been.
Isn't that exactly what I've been saying, chat? Isn't that exactly what I've been saying? Ever since Microsoft acquired ABK, it's been downhill for a while. The worst thing that Microsoft did was acquire ABK. That was a big mistake. Although it was bought with the greatest of intentions and the greatest of mindsets for it actually to be an amazingly positive thing with the whole back catalog coming, providing an enormous amount of games, it's not materialized. And the consumers haven't seen any of it. And the consumers have suffered for the past 3 years when Microsoft has decided to show themselves as weak as possible just to push this through. So, the consumers have decided to go with the flow, but they're not seeing the benefit of that right now. And they need to be. They deserve to see the benefit.
And it has culminated with the news that we got yesterday about the studios closing. And I kind of want to highlight Tango as just how disappointing that is on a couple different fronts. So I take you again back to 2020. Myself and Danny Pena, we got a chance to interview Phil Spencer. And this was right before the pandemic. And I asked him about Japan. And he elaborated on the importance of Japan, why they need a presence in Japan, things like that. And it made total sense to me. So when they did acquire Bethesda, and they were talking up Tango and how important Tango was, now they owned a studio in Japan. Now they have a foothold in Japan. Made total sense to me. So on that basis alone, before we even talk about Hi-Fi Rush, that is hugely disappointing that you had a presence in Japan and you just took it off the board. And look, we'll never know the truth on why certain things have happened. I've seen various rumors, whatever, but you'll never know the 100% truth on why Tango was closed. But as a gamer from the outside looking in, it just does not make sense to me that you had an opportunity to have a foothold in Japan, to build out your presence in Japan with a studio that you own, that you can start cultivating, creating more IPs that are swayed more towards the Japanese region. And it just didn't make sense to me. But let's talk about
I mean, I get that. I totally 100% get that because it did allow them a foothold. But how long have they owned Bethesda? Did they buy Bethesda in 2001? Was it 2001 that they bought Bethesda? So they've had basically Bethesda for 3 years. What advancements have they done? I mean, considering how important Tango Works is to have a foothold in Japan, what have they actually achieved since acquiring Bethesda? 2019. So we're talking 5 years. What have they actually achieved in Japan? Realistically. Exactly. So maybe they, I mean, so to say that they had a foothold in Japan, it did nothing. So I don't think that that's a compelling argument. I don't think that that's a compelling point. Now, if they actually, if, Tango actually did have some real impact in the Japanese market, then I'd say, okay. But for 5 years, it's had zero impact. I just don't, I mean, no, I just don't feel like it's done anything. And I don't feel like that's a compelling argument. No, they haven't, Steve.
Hi-Fi Rush and the Game Pass of things, and why that is disappointing to see the studio be closed, because again, rumor speculation, but allegedly Tango was already pitching for Hi-Fi Rush 2. And before I dive into that, one thing I do want to elaborate on is, I did get some criticism about me not thinking it was that big of a deal that Hi-Fi Rush would go multi-platform when those rumors were popping up. And the reason being is, my thought is, if this is going to generate more revenue for that studio to now greenlight a Hi-Fi Rush 2, do what you got to do. Because as I've always contended, Hi-Fi Rush was not a game that was going to get you to go buy an Xbox. Hi-Fi Rush was not a game that was going to get you to subscribe to Game Pass. It could be a game that supplements the reasons why you would go buy an Xbox and subscribe to Game Pass, but it would not be your reason that you would go do it. So
it is not a system seller. It is not a Game Pass seller. It is just a filler. It always was and always was intended to be. It was never intended to be anything else. The fact that the community went crazy over it is another matter. And, on Steam, you had 6,000 concurrent sales. So clearly it did blindingly brilliant over there. And on PlayStation, I think PlayStation Trophies has, 1,500 people. Obviously, that website is highly inaccurate because you have to register for it. But it's the best we've got because Sony won't release numbers because it's a Microsoft game. Now, if they released it on the Switch, which it still might be coming to the Switch, by the way, because it was given a PEGI rating. And in order to get a PEGI rating, the port should be pretty much complete in the UK. PEGI's for the UK. So it did get a PEGI rating, and it has actually, I guess, potentially been done. So we might still see a Switch port of Hi-Fi Rush. And I do feel like it will probably do best on the Switch because it is a game that's designed for that audience.
Like I said, that game being your most critically acclaimed game in 2023, won awards, all of that. And just over a year later, the
essentially,
studio
yes,
that created is gone, and chances of a sequel vaporize along with it is extremely disappointing. And again, does not make sense to me, because let's get into the Game Pass of things. And this will lead into the Call of Duty stuff as well. That Game Pass, and I've obviously talked about it a lot over the years. Game Pass, as I've said, is supposed to be the best value in gaming, because the whole point is you're going to get those first-party studios first-party studio games day and date as a part of that service.
It's almost like we're of one hive mind, right, chat? It's almost like we are one hive mind. It's quite scary how much we actually agree on a lot of information, and we actually agree with it quite rigorously.
But you are also being supplemented with smaller.
Hey! Stop right there, Wholegrain. Have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV that allows you to play the first 3 expansions up to level 70, completely unrestricted, free of charge, without any restriction on playtime? Now you have.
AA games, indie games, third-party things that they were able to bring into the service to create this value of it and to consistently give you content. That is the whole point of Game Pass, in my opinion. Being a parent, 3 kids, that's why I've always talked about it in a positive way and championed it. And as I've always said, the financial, they're telling me it's sustainable. I'm going to believe until they give me a reason not to. I'm the consumer. I'm going to go by what they're telling me. I've always said that. So to now.
And this is the other thing. As a consumer, if the company's telling you it's sustainable, not that you care if it's sustainable or not, if they're still going ahead with it, you shouldn't care. It's for the company to decide and maintain how they handle their finances. You're not seeing any of that. You're paying your fee. You're paying for the service. You're getting a service in return. That's it. That's where the transaction ends. When I see all these people on either side, oh, my favorite company made this much money. Like, who cares? How much are they actually get? If you're not a shareholder, why do you care?
We'll see that the very games that, look, we understand the Starfields and the big games, were supposed to be there day and date, but now the potential of a Hi-Fi Rush, a Psychonauts 2, a Hellblade 2, a Pentiment, as an example. These studios that you own, that are sure they might make the big AAA games, but they're also, again, by what Phil Spencer said on Kind of Funny just a year ago in our interview, they're able to go chase those passion projects. They're able to go have that creative freedom to do games like that. Now it is seemingly not the case anymore. And that's very unfortunate too, because that's the whole point. You want these studios to be able to take risk. You want Arcane to have a Redfall. That doesn't work. If that's a risk that they took, it didn't work. All right, let's go back to the drawing board and try it again and do something. You don't want these studios that, man, it doesn't matter how great the game is, how many awards it wins. If it doesn't hit a certain number revenue-wise, we may not get another IP to make, and or our studio could close altogether.
See, with Redfall, I think it's different, right? I think it's different with Redfall because if Arcane Austin gave it their 100% every day and tried to produce the best game they could out the door and actually produce something that would, and it still came out in the state that it did after they gave 100% every day and weren't talking about the game and saying that they wish they could cancel it, they didn't want to make it, their heart wasn't in it. But in fact, they actually did try 100%. I genuinely believe that they probably would have escaped closing. But when you don't have your heart in it and you don't want to make it and you want the game cancelled and you don't want to work on that project anymore, and then you're given a year to try and turn it around, the odds are stacked against you. It's literally working against you. I remember when I was employed at a company where I was doing localization in Turkish, and no fault of my own, I had to translate 60,000 cells of Excel from English to Turkish, and you're usually given 9 months to do it. It's a lot of work. But they gave me the work 3 months before the deadline. So I did what I could, and then they said, well, you missed your deadline. And I said, yeah, I've raised this concern multiple times. And at that point, they turned around and told me, well, we're going to rescind your probationary period and put you back onto 3 months probation. And if you complete the job, then we will consider giving you a permanent place. So I resigned. Because I knew at that point, even if I'd spent 100% of my effort doing it, they were going to get rid of me anyway. And I'm not going to just do that for the company. In the end, they couldn't find someone to replace me, so they shut the localization project down, which I take full pride in, that I managed to shut down a whole localization language. Woot woot! But, Team Arcane Austin are part to blame here for this happening because they were still being paid a salary and they were unprofessional about it.
That's kind of scary for people internally, for the devs. So I don't know, just seeing that news come out the way that it has, it's like I keep saying it's disappointing because it is disappointing, and it is making you wonder, was it worth it to acquire Activision if this is the repercussions of it? Because now you have so much financial responsibility to quote unquote turn a profit or whatever it is, that now you're making sacrifices on creative freedom for these studios. That is what worries me. It worries me that a Double Fine, whatever their next project is, could potentially not be good enough. It worries me that if Hellblade 2 doesn't sell a certain number, Ninja Theory goes away on down the line. That, hey, Josh Sawyer's like, I got another passion project I want to do with Obsidian. I'm like, nah, you make a Fallout New Vegas too, because that's what we need your studio to do to turn a profit, right?
But that's what the community wants. They want the New Vegas 2. They want the Fallout 5s. They want the Elder Scrolls 6. They don't want a Redfall 2. They don't want a Pentiment 2. And I get the whole passion project and being able to do that. And I think there's a time and a place for that. And there is a space for that in the community. But you kind of need to make the money first, get that buffer, and then be able to do it. The way the economy is going right now, the whole creative freedom is slowly going out, and people need to sell. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because how can you sell if they're on Game Pass?
That's what concerns me. So let's get into the Call of Duty of this. And here's where people probably might get grumpy with me. So again, going back to that Activision acquisition, the first thought, man, they're going to put Call of Duty in Game Pass. And then we've had a little more reassurances here, not assurances, but more chatter about Call of Duty going into Game Pass. And I forget the exact word that Phil Spencer used at GDC, but I guess he said the intent is for Call of Duty to be in Game Pass. And then we got the report from The Verge today that there's discussions about it either not coming to Game Pass day and date or them raising the price of Game Pass Ultimate. Now, here's my thought on both. If you were to not put Call of Duty day and date in Game Pass, get rid of Game Pass, because you can't, it sets a precedent of, well, this game can be in there, but this one doesn't. So let's take an example, Elder Scrolls 6. Is that not going to be in Game Pass day and date now? You know what I mean? Now it gets confusing for your consumers. You have told us your first party studio games will be there day and date. That's what you've told us. So that would be the expectations for all of your first party studio games.
Exactly what I said.
Not this will make too much money, so it can't be there. No, they all need to be there if that's the case. Because if that's not the case, then that service is not sustainable, in my personal opinion. So just get rid of the service. Go back, say, hey, we tried, it didn't work, it's not sustainable. We're going back to the traditional model.
Maybe gaming, they can't put the price up. They can create a new tier, but I don't think that they can actually put the price up because they told the FTC that they have frozen the price. It was either 1 or 2 years. And I don't know if that period is up yet. If it's up, then sure, they can put it. But if it's not up, they legally can't put the price up. They would have to create a new tier. Now, my suggestion is this. Have a Game Pass tier that's cheaper, that puts the games on there after 3 months or 6 months. So instead of you've got the Game Pass Ultimate, which is where it is now. You've got the Game Pass Ultimate with ABK. And so all future ABK games will be on that one. But then you have like a Game Pass model there that is basically cheaper than the 17. So say it's like $10 or $11 or something. And then that one is basically Game Pass, but without day and date. The games will appear either 3 months or 6 months later. And those people that want to sign up for that for the lower price, that will still get access to a bunch of amazing games that are going to come at a later point anyway. And it'll, encourage people to go buy games as well. But at the moment, with the way Game Pass works, it conditions you to not need to buy a game.
There's a tier of Game Pass that sticks around that's very similar to PlayStation Plus, but this whole Game Pass day and date thing that we thought we were getting, no. And you need to lower the price if that's the case too. Second part, you raise the price of Game Pass Ultimate. Sure.
Woodpit, name me one game that hasn't come to Game Pass. Just one. that is owned by Microsoft, ZeniMax, or Activision Blizzard. Well, Activision Blizzard games haven't actually started rolling out yet, but ZeniMax Blizzard and ZeniMax and Microsoft Studios.
I get it, especially if you're putting Call of Duty in their day and date. But how many people are truly, if your numbers are already stagnant, raising the price is not going to encourage more people to want to subscribe to Game Pass. That's just the truth of the matter, right? So it's almost a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. Again, I'm not Amy Hood. I don't have the books. I don't know what's going on there internally from the financials. So that is obviously something they need to make a decision on and figure it out. But I will say this. Whatever you do, we don't need a half measure. Go all in. Whatever decision you make, you gotta go all in. You can't have.
That's it. Whatever. They just need to come out and say, this is our decision. This is what we're doing. And that's final. Are we going to port these games over? Yes or no? Whatever. It doesn't matter what it is at this point. Just come out, make that statement, and go all in. That's it. That's all they have to do. They need to stop being a jelly and stop flip-flopping with decisions. They just need to make a decision, stand on those decisions, and just follow through with it. If they turn around and say, we're only porting 4 games and 4 games only, don't go 5 minutes later and say, well, anything is up for grabs. That's not it. If anything's up for grabs, then just say that openly and clearly so everyone has that communication, everyone understands where things are. But if it's going to be like, okay, so if it's a live service game, it's going to be day and date. But if it's a single player game, we're going to wait for about 3 years before we port it to anywhere else, or 2 years before we port it to anywhere else. Whatever. But just make that expectation clear. And with this whole Call of Duty situation, that's now, if they don't come out and talk about it, is going to overshadow everything, even the showcase. They just need to be clear with their communication. It's really, the public aren't asking for a lot. They just want communication. Because if they don't, then people start questioning. Is that coming day and date to Game Pass in that show? Is it not? What is coming? Is Blade going to be day and date? Who knows?
Halfway it. You have to 100% be committed to whatever direction that you're going to go. Because I'm going to just tell you right now, I talked to a lot of people in the community, and people are frustrated. People are disappointed. There's a lot of concern and worry about the direction of Xbox. Like I said, that showcase is a month away. People are on their own dime, are going to come to LA for Fan Fest and all of that. They want to be excited about Xbox. I don't know what's going to change in the next 30 days. That I'm talking your hardcore fans here, not the people, the casual consumer people that have no idea what's going on. I'm talking.
Exactly. And that's what Woodpit is talking about here. I don't think the developers matter to people. They don't know who makes the game and don't care. They absolutely don't. And that's, the only people that care are those that are invested like we are. But the average people, they don't even know a single name. Like I said, I still know people who refer to, the Switch as the Nintendo. Let that sink in.
Talking to people that know what's going on, that will spend their money to come to Los Angeles. Where's the excitement going to be? Because whatever you show us during that showcase, in the back of people's heads, there's going to be doubt about, all right, we're going to get that game. Is that going to be enough for that studio to keep making games? That's where we are. That's just the truth of the matter. So I hope that there are some assurances, that there are some definitive statements that come out about the future of Xbox here in the next 30 days as we go into this showcase, because that needs to happen for your community. People are very concerned about hardware. Are they going to keep making consoles? Are they not? The handheld stuff, Game Pass, the multi-platform, is everything going to, should I just get a PlayStation because everything's going to be there? Like, you have all these questions and concerns. And this is where leadership has to come out and be definitive about what the future of Xbox is going to be. They just have to. I've obviously been there since day one. Since 2001, I've been there a very long time as part of Gaming Tag Radio. I've been very lucky and fortunate with some of the opportunities that I've had with Xbox over the years. I mean, we obviously know that, but at the end of the day, I am a consumer. I am a parent who has children that play your games, that consume your content, and I need to understand what direction are we going.
And that's it. I mean, that's all people want to know. As a consumer, I can't buy your product if you're not clear on what you're selling me. You need to be clear on what you're selling, and then me as the consumer will invest in your product if it is for me. Right now, with everything coming out, there is no direction. There's no leadership. Everyone is just throwing everything. Oh, we're having this talk and that talk. Just make a decision. And I get it. They need to make it right for the business. But stop leaking the goddamn information. Literally keep it at board level when no one knows about it, and make sure those people do not talk to anyone about it outside of that room if you have to. But keep that information locked away until you're ready to disclose said information, and then talk about it. The moment you start telling John and Michael and Smith and Sarah and Mary, they're going to pick up the phone and contact their first journalist friend and report that information. And that's partly why this problem exists.
Is this an ecosystem that I need to continue to
The
invest
fucking
in?
leaky
I
toilets
think
are
it is,
everywhere at
but I
Microsoft.
don't know it is.
The
And
walls
that's
have
the
ears.
point here. We need leadership to be definitive about the direction that Xbox is headed. Be a good, bad in between, but tell us. Let us
Bingo.
know. Is Game Pass still the thing? If it's not, rip the Band-Aid and get rid of it. Are we going multi-platform? If we are, let us know. Don't trickle it out. Tell us. I will continue to take what they said in that business update at their word. It's an experiment. Let's see where they go with multi-platform. But I'm not dumb. I know there will be more games that show up on other platforms. But what does that mean for a Gear 6? What does that mean for a Hellblade 2? What does that mean for Starfield? What does that mean for Halo? On down the line. They need to be definitive. Fable, you get my point. They need to be definitive about it. 100%. And the last thing I'll say about the showcase is I need to see more from your internal studios. Right off the top, Perfect Dark is a great example of this.
This is what I'm saying. All this talk about, oh, they're working on this and they're working on this, and then, I keep saying this as a joke where I say, maybe my kids' will actually see, the fruits of the labor of these developers that are actually making these games after I've gone to the land of the ether. Maybe my kids will actually see it at the rate they're working. One game a generation is not good enough. There needs to be a solution to this.
We obviously have heard rumblings about that. The best way to shut people up about Perfect Dark is to show Perfect Dark as an example. But instill confidence in your customers, instill confidence in your community by showing us titles, giving us, not that you got to give us specific dates.
Potentially, yeah.
Kind of give us an idea of when things are coming, instill some confidence in Game Pass, instill some confidence of whatever direction you're going with Call of Duty on down the line, instill some confidence that you're going to continue to make hardware this generation and beyond. That's what needs to happen here in the next 30 days. I hope they do it. I think that's it. I hope all this makes sense.
This is a good video. It's a good statement, and I think it covers a lot. And there's a lot of hard truths in there that people do need to listen to, because at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway from this is that Microsoft just needs to come out and tell people what is what. Fuck the rumors. Get rid of the shit. Just come out and let it come out. Oh, I'd say the horse's mouth, but then everyone will think I'm talking about Sony, so... Oh, I guess they're ponies, horses. You get what I'm saying. Just tell your community what you're doing, what your plans are. Otherwise, it's going to overshadow. Now, is full marketing enough of an expense? Now, what I can tell you with Microsoft is they don't do extravagant marketing. They don't believe that it has the impact that it used to have. I'm inclined to believe it to a certain degree. I still think that marketing is needed, But if you're going to do marketing, you kind of have to go all out where everyone is talking about it so it goes viral, or you don't do it at all. Having a little postcard here or a picture there or the odd, banner here is not going to do anything. You need to go out and be, over the top with it and make sure that it's talked about, it goes viral, people record YouTube videos, like those 3D banner things that you see. I think you've got them, you've got them in Tokyo, but you've got them in Saudi as well. But I think you might have them in America as well. People love recording those. They post them on social media. They get retweeted 1 million times. That's the sort of viral marketing you want. That's what really works. But the age-old putting a YouTube video out there like advert, people pay for YouTube Premium now a lot, or have ad blockers. They don't see it. You've got ad block on your web browser, so you don't see the banners. Websites have like a complete takeover, but you've got ad block on, so you don't see it. So it's a waste of money. So that's why companies have stopped doing that sort of advertising, because ad block basically makes it irrelevant. You're not seeing the banners, you're not seeing the adverts, you're not seeing anything else. So why are they paying pointless money for? So they're hoping that word of mouth is going to be enough. But it's not. You either have to have a really viral campaign that goes out there that everyone talks about, or you just don't bother at all. And half the time, Microsoft chooses not to bother. That is the truth. That is the way it is. And I have no idea why I sound Irish for a second there. Who? They are scared? Of course they're scared. Of course they're scared, because if they say the wrong thing, they're screwed. But at some point they have to take that risk, because all the roads lead to that single path. Whether they talk about it now or they talk about it in 3 months' time, they are going to talk about it. So get in front of it before the brand is damaged. And who knows? Maybe you'll actually win your consumer base over. But the first thing they need to do is decide, is Game Pass the platform, or is the Xbox Series X the platform? And if the Series X is the platform, they need to start pushing that console harder and getting it out there more and selling it more. Because by selling the console, you sell Game Pass. By selling Game Pass, we won't be in the situation we're in now, and it will provide consumers, developers, with that creative freedom that they want to be able to try niche games, because more people are subscribed to Game Pass. More people are subscribed to Game Pass means you have more revenue to play with. Right? Once you start raking in the profits, the Fat Cats will take most of it, sure, but it will help the studios be a lot more free to do those passion projects. But if your studio is not producing, if Game Pass isn't selling, and you're barely breaking even, those passion projects disappear quite quickly. It's like if you're at home and times are hard and you're running low on cash and you've got a subscription for HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Spotify. Those are the first things that you're going to cancel. That's like $70 right there a month that you've just saved. You can resubscribe to them later, but that's the first thing you get rid of. When times are hard, those passion projects are the first things that go. It's really that simple. And the question that people have right now is, with the way it is, are those other studios safe? And it's a genuine worry. But should you as a consumer be made to worry about that? That's the question. Should you be made to worry? Like, if you look at this, RTX Curator, an Xbox fanboy. MBG is right. Hellblade 2 needs to be day one on PS5. The game can't afford to be Xbox PC exclusive. Ninja Theory's life is on the line. Xbox, you got to put Hellblade 2 on PS5. That's not something that he should be concerned about. He's just a consumer. These decisions and trying to sell the game and make it appeal to the wider market is the responsibility of Microsoft. They're the ones that should be dealing with this. As a consumer, why do you care? You are most welcome. For the most part, it generally is black and white. There is some gray there, but you're either gonna bullshit to your consumers, and Sony did that and found out the hard way when they had a potential 177 million lawsuits on their hand, or you're gonna be honest with your consumers and tell them this is how it is. And I think you'll find that if you generally have a good relationship with your clientele, it actually works a lot better. But if you don't have a good relationship and it's built on adversity, then things can go sour very, very quickly. But I still don't think that. I mean, I get the sentiment that he's saying here, but he shouldn't be the one that's coming out and trying to tell people to go buy these games to save a studio. The average person is still going to turn around and say, I'm paying for Game Pass, I'm doing my part, I am paying my subscription. I love that meme. That's good. That's good. How can one game bankrupt a whole studio? Because it costs too much money to make. Now, let's say, for example, you've got a budget, right, of say 100 million. And within that 100 million, you're paying for your salaries, you're paying for the development cost, everything for the game to come out. If that game doesn't make that 100 million back, it doesn't break even. So at that point, the company now has to pay them more because they haven't broken even. And so the game makes a loss. And at that point, if the loss is too damaging, let's say they made 50 million, the studio just lost $50 million for Microsoft. That's a red flag. Now, before ABK, even when those studios were doing those passion projects and Microsoft wasn't making mega money on those games, it didn't matter because Microsoft makes so much money that they could cover those little mishaps and just, wave it over. But once they spent $70 billion, that changed things. And, that took out the Uno reverse card and brought in the magnificent free into play. And now they're scrutinizing everything because now they want to return on that 70 billion. And they can't have the Redfalls not making money. They can't have the Hi-Fi Rushes potentially not making the money. They can't have the Pentiment passion projects not making the money. It's all well and good that these projects exist, but if they're not returning, that's a problem. Pre-ABK, it didn't matter because they haven't spent $70 billion. So any loss that Microsoft did was being covered by Microsoft. Any passion project that came out was just being swept under the rug by Microsoft. But once you've got 70 billion in play, that changes the game. And this is why people say that, Activision as a whole was not a good thing for, Xbox. Callisto Protocol's another one. Take it easy, Steve. Appreciate you being here. Who, Sacci and Adela? No, Sacci and Adela's the one that's running the show now. Yeah, that's how normal business operate. One loss doesn't torpedo the whole company. In the games industry, just look at Callisto Protocol. They let go over half their staff. They pretty much gutted the studio just so they could put their company back into the black because the game did so bad. I mean, to be fair, partly they kind of deserved it because they decided to purposefully make the Xbox version worse. And then they came out and said, oh, we didn't actually know. Our QA didn't catch it. Of course they did. They purposefully did that. They know they did. They fucked around and they found out when the majority of Xbox gamers boycotted it. I mean, I didn't buy it for that sole purpose only. If you are going to be a company that deliberately makes one version worse just so you can appeal to another. I don't care if I have a PS5, a Series X, and Nintendo Switch. I'm not buying your product. That simple. No company should do that. They did, they fucked around, and they found out. You just don't do that. But I expected more from Destin here. I really like Destin. Speak to him a few times. But I think this statement here is just pandering towards the whole clicks. So Xbox's plan is to increase price of Game Pass, potentially, or create a new tier. Clearly create a new tier. Possibly not put Call of Duty in Game Pass. Take smaller games and give us prestige rewards, which Hi-Fi Rush 2 and Dishonored could have been. No, they couldn't. Smaller games they're referring to is games like Grounded that have like 15, 20, 30 people working on it. That's what they're talking about. Not a game that has a full studio with a full development lifecycle. So even here, he's actually wrong. Right? Get more people to voluntarily quit and take a severance package, meaning less overall experience at the company. Yeah, but it stops. If people want to leave, if people are not happy where they are, and they can afford to take that severance package and leave and be financially okay and move on to somewhere else, that's a better option than taking someone else who doesn't want to leave. So I would much rather the company I work at have that option than not have that option. I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive. Hey, Zrogdal, how's it going? Game Pass needs a token system, play to earn, and use said tokens to symbolize a purchase, not a perfect system. You've been playing Terra Fantasy too much. You've been playing tough too much. Oh, he has been critical. That's why I said I like him. But I don't think that statement there was correct. I think that statement there was wrong. He, on the other hand, he actually believes that Game Pass works. He actually thinks that Game Pass doesn't work because Phil, Matt Booty, and Sarah Bond. Well, he doesn't really blame Sarah, but he does blame Phil and Matt Booty. Cuphead developers had to remortgage the house. I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm about to be made homeless. I don't need to. I'm about to be made redundant from my job because they can't actually do their jobs. Senior management is fine. I'm about to be made redundant literally at my workplace, and I'm about to be made homeless as well. I'm literally in the same boat, but it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'm not going to sit here and moan about it. I just have to move on. There are enough problems on my plate that isn't one of them. I just need to find another job. And as QA, I technically am part of the development team. So I'm telling that to myself as a developer. If that makes you happy. Of course, none of you are seeing what I'm bloody looking at, which is this. I forgot to click the button. I didn't click the button. I feel bad. I did not click the button. Andrew, that's a double-edged sword as well. Because as an independent company, if you mess up, you're gone. There's no second chance. There's no company to soak in anything. If Hi-Fi Rush came out as an independent studio game and it sold the way it did right now, the studio potentially would have been shut down anyway. Because it didn't sell. It didn't really do anything. All that bragging that PlayStation fans wanted Hi-Fi Rush, it looks great, it looks all this. No one bought it. On PC, for all the fanfare it got, 6,000 concurrent users. I mean, I guess that's roughly about what? Maybe 100,000 units sold? For a full development lifecycle, 4-year development? Maybe 200,000? I guess on the Switch it could have done really well, but we'll never know. I don't think it would have really appealed to the Xbox audience as much as it did if it wasn't on Game Pass. So as an independent, they could have been in even more trouble. I mean, I guess it would have come to the same outcome. The studio potentially would have been closed. But apparently, and this is the last slide for me, I think. Yeah, it is. All this time that I've been saying that it was PlayStation was holding back the Xbox Series X, I was right.
But what also comes to light is the fact that, well, perhaps unfairly, the original PlayStation 5 GPU was called like RDNA 1.5. To be fair, it did seem to have a mixture of features from RDNA 1 and 2, but it does look as though, just as a matter of course, the PlayStation 5 Pro GPU is getting more features.
So that right there. So when the games were being created for the primary console, being the PS5, any of those extra features that the Series X had were not being developed for. None of them were being developed for it. Only the limited features for RDNA 1.5 were being essentially developed for it. So Xbox was always being handicapped from the set-go because that parity clause that Sony had in place, where Xbox games couldn't be better than the PlayStation counterpart, was always in play. And, you know, Microsoft did it as well during the 360 days, so it is what it is, but it's out there now. Hey, Boss Quackers.
Alex, you've seen this. What do you think of it?
So the thing that the documentation points out, and that we talked about one last thing, I think it was like 3 weeks ago now, was that the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to support hardware VRS. Aspect of VRS's usage not being so high as it potentially could have been is the fact that the PlayStation 5 doesn't support it. And like literally, the PlayStation 5 is the de facto like AAA multi-platform.
Listen to that again, yeah? Listen to that again.
Was going to support hardware VRS. Aspect of VRS's usage not being so high as it potentially could have been is the fact that the PlayStation 5 doesn't support it.
So the Xbox supports hardware VRS. And Digital Foundry has done a couple of videos on this and shown how amazing VRS supported games actually look. And they've always said that, you know, it's a shame that the developers don't use it more. But they don't use it because the PS5 doesn't support it. And because the PS5 is the de facto console that these developers are developing for, means that the Xbox Series X has, since its inception, been held back. It's been held back.
And like literally, the PlayStation 5 is the de facto like AAA multi-platform target. Like if you're looking at it, like there's a lot of stuff that just goes in to make that PS5 version great. And if you need to spend more time like looking at something that only supports a certain subset of, you know, like Xbox and PC from RDNA 2 up or touring up or into.
When I used to work in the games industry, I read some of the contracts, and it literally stated in the contract when we were making, this was during the 360 era that I was working there. It literally said that the game cannot look better on the PlayStation 3. This is when we were working on the primary console being the Xbox, and it literally had that in the contract, and Sony will have the same thing. It literally had that in the contract. It cannot be better or perform better on the PS3, on the PlayStation platform. That was actually a contractual point, and these developers have to adhere by it. Now, obviously, it's never going to be one-to-one, but it's there in writing.
Intel Arc up, well, then you're going to say, maybe we don't need this if it's not going to give us great visual or performance wins, and it's just like a nice plus. So I think that's limited VRS to a certain degree. Here, now that PlayStation 5 Pro supports it, I actually do think we could see more VRS implementations in games. Because
there you go. Now that the PS5 Pro is actually getting on the level of the Series X, we will now see the potential of the Series X start to come out, right? But there is a catch to this, which I'm going to come out with, and some of you may not like it, and someone may actually clip this, and don't clip it out of context at least. But before I get to that point, there was a video that these guys actually did where they checked the heat on the GPU, where the PS5 was going at something like 75, I think it was like 80 or 90 degrees. 80 or 90 degrees for the GPU. The Series X was at 60 degrees. And in some of the games, dropping down to 50 degrees. It wasn't being utilized at all. That just shows you how much more room there was for the Series X to actually perform, but it was being handicapped. But now getting to the point that I was going to make, third-party developers were clearly being handicapped in developing for the PS5 as the de facto console and not utilizing those in order to save development costs for themselves. Fine. Why was Xbox first-party games not using them? And that's where I get upset and angry. Why are your first-party games not utilizing the technology? I get the third-party games not doing it because of that bullshit contract. But why is your first-party games not looking as perfect as they possibly can? I get we're getting Hellblade 2 now, and it's looking great. But why wasn't we seeing that level of brilliance from the get-go? Why wasn't we seeing, the use of VRS, fluid, motion fluid frames? Why wasn't we seeing any of this when the Series X supports it? We're not seeing any of the technology from Xbox being utilized, even by their first-party studios. So if their first party isn't using it, why the fuck should third parties support it? You've got to start at home and show the rest of the world your games are the bee's knees. And if the third-party studios do not deliver to that standard, then us as the community can go to them and ask them, hey, buddy, what the fuck? Xbox, I can tell you, does not have better cooling. They're on par. But the Series X is not being utilized. And they're not using the technology that they have there. But even Microsoft isn't using it. Why are they not utilizing it? They should be utilizing it. And they're not. But as you can see here, hopefully now with the PS5 Pro, if it ever materializes, now we will see new life coming into these games. Because fluid frames is essentially like DLSS, right? That could have been in place and added better frame rates to a lot of games. But it's not supported on the 5. But it is on the Series X. I mean, technically, Chris, your PS3 game looks better than every single PS5 game out there. That wasn't the win that you wanted it to be, right? The fact that it looks better than all of your PS4 games, all of your PS5 games, and everything you've got out there. It wasn't the win you really wanted there. You shot yourself that one. That one was brutal. That one was literally just like one of those boomerangs you throw out there thinking you got the gotcha moment. You do that, yes, got it, and then it comes and smacks you right back in the face. That wasn't it, Chief. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. No, the Series X and S didn't have to work similarly. What they needed to do is have the same features. So if one had the whole split screen like Baldur's Gate did, the other one had to. They didn't have to both run at 30 FPS. They didn't have to have the same graphics. None of that had to be the same. It's just feature-wise they had to be the same. All right, so the next ROG Ally, it's going to have the same Z1 Extreme chipset and screen. It's not an Ally 2. It's just an upgrade. It's going to have a black handheld, revised shell with a substantial battery life improvement, way more than 30-40% more capacity. That's cool. Slightly heavier due to larger battery, along with revised grips, slight tunings to the D-pad, joysticks, and triggers. Acer says Ally X should now have more than its current 16GB of RAM, longer M2 slot, be more repairable, redesigned joystick modules that are interchangeable, same exact SD card reader as used in its laptops with rearranged motherboard layout. Asus doesn't believe any SD card issues actually had to do with overheating. Ally X will start at a higher price than the original ROG, will still be available, will still be sold. So that's it. It's not an ROG 2. I thought it would have been an Ally ROG 2, but it's not. Before it begins work on ROG 2, Asus wants to ship an improved version of the original that doesn't have an OLED screen. It's going to have the same 7-inch screen, 48 to 120 Hz VRR. At least it has VRR on it. That's a little. I wanted the thing. Again, no specs today, but Acer says the Ally X should now have more than its current 16 gig of RAM. So I guess that's going to be 32 gig. And that's probably the biggest selling factor for this, 32 gigs of RAM. And the fact that it's got now a 2280 SSD slot instead of the 30, which is the smaller one. So now you can put whatever SD card you want in there. So yeah. Anyone interested? Anyone? Yeah, but it doesn't look as good as 1888. Chris, it doesn't look as good as 1888. So, these games graphically are trash compared to 1888. Your words, not mine. Those words are just... Those games, they just don't hold up to 1888. You can't compare them. 1888 is way too superior. Oh, I did not see that from Paris. He was in chat listening. I hope he enjoyed my breakdown. Still trying to get him onto my show. Maybe we'll do it one day. Someone sent me something. They said they sent me something. Oh. All right, we've got one clip to watch here, and then if there's anything else anyone wants, we can check it out. I'm pretty disappointed in this revision for Asus ROG Ally. I expected more. It's just the black version, but well, I guess the RAM itself will make it better, but depending on the price point, I wanted an OLED display for this one, and it didn't come. I'm disappointed. I are disappointed. That's a good question, actually. I don't know. I don't know, because a lot of the games now are available multi-plat. So, what's his name wanted this? Don't blame me, chat. It's only a 5-minute video. It's only a 5-minute video. You can blame Devastator for this one. But Xbox shuts down Tango Gameworks, proving Hi-Fi Rush to be an epic failure for Microsoft.
Pre-order my book, American Evil, in the description below. Talk about vindication. Holy moly. Seeing people react to the Tango Gameworks closure is hilarious because I predicted this. You know, I said that Hi-Fi Rush was not successful and that this was a last-ditch effort by the company to stay relevant. You know, I explained how Shinji Mikami leaving the company was a red flag. You know, I talked about Tokyo Ghostwire. I talked about how the Evil Within was a disappointment. You know, I talked about how Tango Gameworks had no credibility at all. And yet people were just sitting there saying, no, Hi-Fi Rush is my game of the year because I don't play anything other than
when my
than
headset
Xbox.
runs
So
out of battery.
This kind of cartoony video game is new and novel to me, even
like,
though Platinum Games and Nintendo has been producing higher quality products than this for the past decade. Like, bro, like the hype around Hi-Fi Rush was unwarranted, right? If you liked Hi-Fi Rush, it just means that you haven't been playing enough video games, right? People were trying to tell me this was a major hit for the studio, that Microsoft would invest more in Tango Gameworks after the success, that this was a huge, phenomenal thing, and they're done. You know, barely even a year later, Microsoft has shut down Tango Gameworks. All the staff are getting fired. They're not getting like reincorporated into other teams or anything. They're just done, right? You know, 10 years of this studio being propped up on like Shinji Mikami's legacy alone, just down the drain. You know, like the Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft really does seem to have only been made because so they could have Fallout in the Elder Scrolls, right? They didn't care about everything else under the Bethesda label, right? For sure. And we are now beginning to see the end result of that, right? We are, as I predicted, seeing the end results of Microsoft acquiring all these studios. They are treating them exactly like they did Rareware, right? They're just shutting them down, not doing anything with like their vast legacy of IPs, right? If they do something, it's
This guy chats way. What is he talking about?
half-assed and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense and just alienates the original audience. Just look at the Battletoads reboot, right? Like, this is the legacy of Xbox, is just ruining video games endlessly, right? You know, like how like in 1984, where like the guy is like explaining to Winston.
But is Microsoft actually ruining video games? If they're giving you creative freedom, so you can do what you want, you are technically making the game with unlimited amount of money that you want to make that you would have potentially made if you wasn't with Microsoft. How is that any different to Microsoft being there or not? That's the part I don't get. So all the time you hear these people saying, we've got creative freedom, we can do what we want, Microsoft has a hands-off approach. So if Microsoft has a hands-off approach and they have the creative freedom, it means they are doing what they actually want to do for that video game. So if the video game turns out to be absolutely shit, why is that on Microsoft and not on the studio for making something that's absolutely shit? Why are they getting a free pass when they had the creative freedom with the hands-off approach where they dictated what they did? That's the part I don't get. I never hear anyone actually questioning that point.
About like what the state of America is like, well, the state of the world is like. Like, ooh, imagine a boot stamping on your face forever. That's Microsoft right now for all of their the studios they've acquired. You know, and the sad thing is, before this layoff, before these mass firings were confirmed official, people really thought that things were going well. Like, before we got confirmation that all of these people were just in the shit house, right? Completely canned, you know, completely fired from all their jobs. You know, no more games will get produced. People don't even think Hi-Fi Rush is going to get ported to Switch anymore. That's how bad it is, right? You have this situation, right?
Man, this dude, he is a piece of work.
And
could you imagine if this guy was actually a PS fan? Holy shit. The toxicity would be flowing through his veins.
Damn, what was I going to say? I completely lost it. But anyway,
he's chatting so much shit that he actually forgot what he was saying. I mean, that tells you everything.
Point is, Microsoft spent all this time and energy hyping up Hi-Fi Rush only for it to collapse among itself, right? They spent all that money hyping up Hi-Fi Rush.
Time to ban Benaya.
Big thing.
Right.
You know, a lot of YouTubers bought into
10 seconds.
it. It was like chilled, and look what happened. It was an absolute train wreck.
Josh Brown, we're still reeling from one of the...
And like I said, at the end of the day, when it comes to Hi-Fi Rush 2, Hi-Fi Rush, if the game was a bigger phenomenon, the studio probably would have still been alive. I has the power. The power! So summertime activities is being on your phone and trolling in chat and talks about Xbox. I guess you're not talking to me. Yeah, it probably costs more than that to make, considering it was in development for 4 years. That's the problem. And if you look at the amount of people that have actually completed it on Xbox, it's so minuscule. So clearly it just wasn't a success. It was a good game. But this is why you don't see the likes of Jack and Daxter and Banjo-Kazooie. People want those games. They just don't want to play the games. They think they want those games. And they think they want them. But the PS5 and the Series X, they're just not the platforms for them. The music license would cost more alone. That's the problem. And in order for you to be able to do these passion projects, you need to make sure that your studio is producing enough, or the company, the actual Xbox division is producing enough to make sure that they can do that. But after you spend 70 billion, that becomes a problem. But hey, that's my thoughts. That's what I think. I'm not sure what you guys think. If there's any questions that you guys want to put through to me, there's a link in chat right now. If you want to jump on and just have a quick question, let's do that. I like to have like a Q&A at the end of sessions if we can do that. If people want to actually partake in that and just jump on board and ask a question, I'll answer it. You leave, someone else comes in. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But my opinion is this. People are saying that there's no comeback for Xbox. I think there is. But I think the way Xbox can come back from this is for them to start for them to start talking shop with the community and letting them know what it is that they want to do. Not throwing everything at the kitchen sink at the wall and hoping something sticks. They just need to kind of, be open, I guess. And if they want to, if the games aren't coming to Game Pass and they want to introduce a tier that's got a bunch of games, but Game Pass day one games no longer come day one, and they're going to make that a higher tier for day one games, they just need to communicate that. The same with Call of Duty. If they don't talk about it, all eyes are going to be on the thing at the end where they're going to be waiting for it to say day one on Game Pass. And if they don't announce it before the show, I reckon that there's not going to be a single game that says day one on Game Pass. It's just going to be play on Game Pass. And that could mean anything. 3 months after launch or whatever. I know people will take that as an insinuation that it's day one, but if they don't mention it, it's not day one. So, I don't know. And well, I can see no one wants to jump into chat and ask a question at all. None. Pick a path and be committed to going down it. If the path fails, so be it. At least they went somewhere. Yeah, agreed. Well, chat, I guess that's going to be it for today then. Tomorrow, if there isn't anything majorly newsworthy to talk about, then we'll probably play some Xbox games over it. Maybe some Diablo or something. Don't know. We'll see what I feel like playing. But if we have some news, then I'll be talking about that first before we switch over to any video games. But that's going to be it, chat. That is going to be it for me for today. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. Thank you for coming and hanging out. It has been awesome. And hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, Tuesday's stream will probably potentially be my last one. So I'm going to try and get a guest onto here, maybe someone like Paris or something. Or I'm going to see if I can get through to one of the others who actually still want to talk to me, because apparently the community, I've got a red flag on me in the community at the moment. I speak too much sense and too much logic, so they don't like that. It is what it is. Can't do much about that. I do like to speak sense, and, well, you know how the saying goes. But hey, if there's ever a problem, just know that at least your camp, right, was not nuked in Fallout 76. My dude's camp was nuked in Fallout 76. He woke up, walked to his camp, and was like, what the hell happened to my camp? And it was at that moment he knew he messed up. He messed up real bad. Now he has to start again. Anyway, that's it. Peace out, folks. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, stay safe and remain legend, folks. Peace out. Good night. You clearly shouldn't forget to leave a like. It's constantly said in the chat. Become a member. Super chat. Leave a like. Hit that sub button.